Under the same moon, we share the love. Embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.
Good afternoon, Stella's in the building. Shout out to you. Hope you had a great weekend. We want to welcome everybody to the show today. We have the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. He's going to address the nation at 1 p.m., so we're coming in early as we're waiting for this event. Typically, we have a show at noon. Looks like we have some sort of technical difficulty. Let's see what happens. But at any rate, we're going to tune in to see what he has to say in regards to this monumental war. We're going to tune right in. As you come in, we're going to have wholesome conversation in the chat while we wait for the president to come in. So thank you. Hit the like button, share, and subscribe. And I really do appreciate you guys very much. All right, let's see what happens. Thank you guys as you come in. Hit the like button, share, and subscribe. All right, we have Deborah in the building. Shout out to you, Deborah. Pretty Things is in the building. We have J Cat. All right, what do you guys think the president's going to say today? You think there's a deal or no deal? Anderson is in the building. Good to see you back, Anderson. Always a pleasure. Good morning to you, Anderson. What do you guys think the president of the United States is going to say in regards to this war? Is it going to be over? What do you think? Give me your best guess in the chat. If you think we have good news on the way, or let's do the numbers. Put a 1 in the chat if you think the president is going to say we have to continue the war. Put a 2 if you think it's going to stop, or put a 3 if you think the president does not have a clue what's going on. Let's see what you guys have to say in regards to this. Okay. Yes, it's going to be at 1 o'clock. We're coming in so everybody can enjoy the chat. The typical show that we have at noon will be at 2 p.m. All right. So that's if the president has concluded. Then we'll have that show. We have a lot in store. I'm going to do a breakdown on Pam Bondi and why she received the boot. I'm going to also, I put out a poll, and most people say they want to hear about Nancy Guthrie. I thought that subject was kind of dying down, but it looks like everybody wants to hear what's going on with Nancy. So I'm going to give you guys my breakdown of what I think happened in regards to Nancy Guthrie. It's quite different. I haven't seen anybody break it down, but I'm going to tie it into another crime that happened in Arizona that I believe could be the same people behind it. So I'm going to put that together. But getting back to the $1 million question, most people feel like the president will not have a deal, no deal. So what does that mean for gas prices? Tell us in the chat, how much are you guys paying for gas, right? How much are you paying for gas? Let's see what you have to say in regards to this. I think right here in New York, we're paying roughly $4, give or take. But tell us the state that you're in, and also how much you're actually paying for fuel. Okay. Pretty Ting says Iran is not backing down. All right. I think that's become quite clear. Aryan says the president is a loser in chief. Oh, my goodness. Don't say it. Don't say it. Aryan says Nancy is dead. Okay. We don't know for sure yet. There's so many different speculations in regards to her. Wandering, I think it's the first time I'm seeing you. Wandering says taxation without representation has come to pass. Okay. All right. Pretty Ting says he's already made threats. Guys, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Welcome in. We're waiting for the 1 o'clock show. So if you need to go in and come out, but definitely tell us what state you're tuning in from and how much you're paying for gas. Deborah says gas is $4.24 to $4.12 in Florida. Okay, I can imagine it's burning up in Florida. How hot is it in Florida, Deborah? Tell us all about it. Okay, Young Clemens says $3. Wow, we need to drive over to you and fill up wherever you're at. It might balance itself out. All right. Dark Knight says $4.28 in Florida. Neighbors with Deborah, perhaps. Okay. Mike says, suck it up, Alice, and sacrifice a little to make the country safer. All right, good point by Mike. Says the president is making the country safer. Do you guys agree with that? Do you guys feel that Iran was a threat to the United States of America before this action went down? Well, if they weren't a threat, they are a threat now, right? They're definitely a threat now. Kathy says, I love President Trump. Great job. Okay. All right, guys, come on in, hit the like button, share, subscribe to the channel. Ellington is back from last night. Ellington says, yes, okay. Nicole says she don't agree. All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you guys so much. Well, when you think about it, Iran has been threatening the United States of America for some 47 years, going back to when they held hostages. So some people feel like this was bound to happen, as my grandfather would say, this is bound to happen. A lot of people are pushing back on it. I'm shocked that a lot of Trump supporters are actually turning their views on the president. I didn't think that would happen. I thought a lot of them would ride out with him through the storm, but it looks like he's taking on some sort of heat. At least that's what we're seeing in the media. I'm not a big fan of some of the mainstream media and some of the stories that come out, because oftentimes when I'm boots on the ground, I actually see things for myself and I see the media come out and spin a different narrative. What's going on, folks? Why is it happening? Curtis is back in the building. Curtis Gilliam says America always trying to take something that don't belong to them. Oh, Curtis, tell us, what have they taken? What have they taken? Oh, they taken a lot. Tell us all about it, Curtis. I know you're going to preach to us today. You can have the floor. Sparta says facts. Trump is losing even MAGA. Why do you think that's the case? I think MAGA represents only 30% of the Republican Party, and 92% of the MAGA definitely has the president's. They pushed his approval rating, so that's good numbers. But again, if you want to believe the mainstream media, MAGA is only 30% of the Republican Party. Deborah says everyone is feeling the pinch. All right. Those pockets are screaming. They want a break, right? Food prices in your family. Who does the shopping for food? What does that look like now? Has egg prices come down? Probably shouldn't be eating eggs anyway because of high cholesterol. I know that that's a plague in the nation and throughout the world. All right. Pretty Ting says Trump is the only threat to this country. Ooh, that's strong. Do you feel that the president is strong and able to lead? Is there a reason why none of the previous presidents chose to go into Iran? Is that an indication that President Trump is strong? You know, guys, let me tell you something that I saw that nearly knocked me out while I was away working on. By the way, guys, I put together a lot of t-shirts and cups and all sorts of things that if you want to support the channel, or if you just like to have a nice watching the world cup or shirt or whatever, all of those things will be available for you today. But you know what I saw that really knocked me out is that Alex Jones, you guys know who Alex Jones is? Alex Jones It says that the president is on the decline. I could not believe what I saw and heard from Alex Jones. Remember when he was such a strong Trump supporter? Why is this the case? Why do we have all these people turning on the president? Does anybody have a clue? Do you have a clue as to why? In fact, you have Tucker Carlson. Do you guys remember the first time around for the president? Tucker Carlson was on it. He loved the president. He had the president for those intimate interviews that nobody else could get. In fact, Fox News is probably one of the main reasons how the president had his claim to fame, right? It was all for Fox News. And now you see these guys turning on the president. What in the world is happening? Do we have some activity here? Let's see what's going on. I saw some movement and a red microphone. Let's see. All right. They're just getting it all in line, folks. Nothing here. Nothing here yet, folks. Nothing at all. Let's see what everybody has to say. But anyway, why are these people turning their back on the president? I don't know why. I need you guys to tell me in the comments. No justice, says Joe. You're a delusional Democrat. All right. What a shame that these people are turning on the president of the United States. Jamie Bullfrog, okay, says he said no more new wars. You know what's so interesting? I think that the president of the United States was actually he did a tour. He went to probably 3 different states about 2 weeks ago, and he was talking about how he had solved 8 to 9 wars. Can you imagine that? 8 to 9 wars he solved. And he talked about all of the people that were losing their lives by the wholesale. Would you believe that? Well, guess what? At the same time, the president is engaging in a new war. And I thought that to be quite interesting. We solve 8 or 9 and we start another war. Every day when I sit in this seat, a lot of people come in, they say, well, this is not a war. But what is it, folks? If it's not a war, what would you call it? Maybe someone in the audience could tell me. If it's not a war, maybe Stella knows. Stella knows a lot of things. Stella tells me I should not use certain words on YouTube, and I don't follow the rules. I have a problem with following the rules, but Stella always reminds me I'm working on those words. Last night I said a few words I shouldn't have said. Stella, don't hold it against me. Don't put me in timeout. Mike says the people in this country are soft. Oh, thank God we have a military that isn't. I tell you what, I'm not a person. I want to say for the record, here at Watching the World, we support the police and the military. So let's get that very clear. When things go crazy, like what we saw with Nancy Guthrie and all these other things that are happening, believe you me, we need to call the police. So you won't find me bad mouthing the police. I have a lot of law enforcement in my family, so I just want to make that clear. Now, when it comes to the war, oh wow, we have so many people here from MAGA. So, for all the individuals here that support MAGA, are my numbers correct? Is MAGA about 30% of the Republican Party with a 92% approval rating? Tell me what you think, folks. I have so many words coming out. I need a drink of water. Tell me, guys, what you think. Is that right? Is MAGA about 30% of the Republican Party with a 92% approval rating for the president? Now, that number might be going down according to what the records say, but does anybody here know? I know we do have some MAGA individuals here. If you just could confirm those numbers, or if they appear to be half right, we'll take it. Okay, Truth Only says yes, 100%. Oh, now I find that hard to believe. Nobody gets 100% approval rating, but we'll run with that. But I think it's about 92% according to what I'm seeing. Eric Nickerson's in the building. Good afternoon to you, Eric. Nice to see you. Donnell says Taurus skin cells. Okay, not sure what that's about. Sounds good though, but not on subject. Okay. Kathy says MAGA is great. Kathy, can you confirm? Do you know what percentage MAGA is of the Republican Party? We have a lot of mics here, a lot of mics in the building. Mike says fighting back on Iran is not a new war. Good point. You make a good point. Okay. S. Mar says, where do you get your info? I get it from all different places. Primarily, if it's something media related, I'll get it from Fox, CNN. Oftentimes, I'll do the ground news as well. So Daniel says polls showed MAGA got 0%. What in the world? Where'd you get that from? Or maybe you left the one off and you meant to say 100%. Okay, thank you. Lisa says TDS, Trump's devotion syndrome. Oh, right. They have a lot of devotion for the president. Okay, let's see if this fella has something worthwhile to say. Let's see. Oh, he's calling home to see if he left the stove on, folks. He's calling home to check on the stove. He's not saying anything. All right, something. Man says, hey, loving the show. Quick question. Does your mom... Oh, my. We have some weirdos in the comment section, guys. Just keep on moving. We get a few trolls here now and then. But it is what it is. We need the trolls too to help us to understand what sanity looks like, right? We need the bad to appreciate the good. We need the cold to appreciate those warm days that Deborah is having down in Florida. So God bless America, home of the GD Brave. All right, very good. Lord, now I'm trying to navigate here because we do have trolls. I would like to ask the moderators if you see somebody talking that weird talk that's way out there and absurd, I'd like to ask if you could just delete their comments. We want to put them in the back of the room until they learn how to behave and act, as my grandmother would say, act civilized. Have some decency about yourself. Don't come into a room where you have people that are intelligent acting like a hoodlum, right? Acting like a hoodlum. We don't need hoodlums, right? We cover these cases where people who do not know how to behave. We have a Mel Gillum. All right, shout out to you. Dems are splitting the party. It's all about the Democrats. Okay. All right. Okay, now, oh, the guy that said some very harsh things is now promoting Jesus. Well, I'll be. He went from the dark section and now he's preaching light. All right. We're going to let you live if you can keep up your good behavior for more than 5 minutes. All right. I won't have them kick you out. Kathy says Trump is 90%. Jesus is 100. All right. A lot of people here are supporters of Christ Jesus. All right. Starbound says we've had whitewashed Jesus for too long. It's all white supremacy. Starbound is not a fan of Jesus, I guess. Okay, thank you. Everybody's entitled to how they feel. Kathy Strauss is back in the building. Shout out to you, Kathy. I wonder where you've been. Nice to see you. Give them a timeout. That's right, Kathy. That's right. Put them in the corner. Ben, oh, shout out to you. Oh, right. Let's see. So we have a troll that's paying money and talking foolishness. I'd rather you keep your money if you don't know how to behave. Money does not change things over here. We're not in the pulpits asking for money. That's not the game here. We're here to learn how to behave. So you've already failed, and we're going to send you back your $2 because it's not needed at this time. We'd rather you come with some intelligence. All right, Deborah says, where is... Okay, she is here. She is here, Deborah. She is definitely here. All right. Truth Only says, I'm white Jesus, was brown, hate to break it. Okay. We have a lot of conversation here about Jesus today, perhaps because yesterday was Resurrection Day. I understand. I can dig it. Okay. I'm reading the comments, but try not to read those that are absurd or, the ones that It's foolishness. Some of these comments, people are calling people names that are very disrespectful. Okay. Yes, Deborah, she is here. She has a different name. I think you'll figure that out pretty soon. We had to make a few changes. We have some people coming up with all these bizarre identities. We have people claiming to be attorneys and doctors, and then you find out they're not any of the sort. So we have to try to figure these things out because we don't want people here faking the funk, right? Faking the funk. Let's see if Mike has something valuable to say here. Let's focus on Mike. Mike says we have a volunteer military, and we are better off that way with people who want to fight, not someone who is forced to fight. I agree with you, Mike. It's very important to have people who really want to be out there. It actually helps the safety of all that are involved in the case. All right. Okay. George says, Jesus, don't go to war. Okay. Are you saying that followers of Christ do not participate in war? Is that what you're saying? Tell me. I really want to know. Expound upon that conversation. Jamie is in the building. Jamie says the rich don't send their sons and daughters. Okay, good point. Some people are saying that the president's son, Barron, needs to go to war to set the fine example for the rest of the Americans. But do not hold your breath because I don't think that's going to happen. In fact, they say he's near 7 feet tall. Can you imagine that? He would, they said the reason why he can't go to war is because he would stick out like a sore thumb. This is the president's son, right? He'd also be such a hazard to everybody else because they would all be seeking to take his life, obviously. So these are some of the things that we hear as the reason why he is not engaging in war. All right. Now, if you agree with that, that's different. You may not agree with it, but that's what at least we're hearing when it comes to the public. So again, we're waiting on the president of the United States to come forth and tell us about the war in Iran. Now, put a 1 in the chat if you actually keep up with the president, if you actually took the time to listen to the last briefing that he gave last week. I think it was maybe Wednesday night, Thursday night. Put a 1 in the chat if you actually follow the president. I find it hard to believe that people have no interest in knowing what's happening with the leader in chief of the free world. Even if you despise the president, wouldn't you want to know what he's thinking or what he might be planning on doing that's going to dramatically affect your life, right? Now, I get it. A lot of people do not like the president. A lot of people don't like Biden. People didn't like Barack Obama, Bush. The list goes on and on. But again, you do have to know what's happening in life. I say all of that to say, if you listen to his last speech, it had a ring of every other speech that the president has given. It seems that he has a few talking points that he hits every time he gets on the microphone. So do you think he has something different today? Or do you think he's just trying to keep the American people in the loop? What do you think? Pretty Ting says, I watch because I agree. I want to know what's going on. That's right. Marvin Gaye says, what's going on, folks? What's going on? You know what? I don't know if you've heard the song by Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. I think it was made around 1970. That song applies today probably as well as it did in 1970 because we still have the same problems that are not going away. Right? What do you guys think about that? Oh, we have Jason here. He's on Epstein Island. Oh, my. How did you get on Epstein Island, Jason? Tell us all about it. Or maybe spare us because that's not a wonderful place from what I understand. We have Bert in the building. Bert says, lower gasoline prices. He is tired. I guess you're trying to say tired of high gasoline prices. I get it. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of people are struggling. Last night, the criminal defense attorney Calvin Johnson even talked about how gas prices was pinching his pockets as well. And he's an attorney. So can you imagine what the average American is going through just trying to make ends meet, right? It must be tough. Okay, Starbound says, yeah, Trump says he's going to take them out, but he dodged the draft 5 times, and no, Trump has never served. But it's real bold now that he gets to sit behind protection and send your kids to die. Oh my. Isn't that something to think about? J Cat says, tell the same lie over and over again, and some people will believe it. That's a common trend in life, so I do get your point. Thank you very much. So, guys, we're about 29 minutes away from the president. I hope he has some good news. You know what's weird is that the stock market is kind of up today. So I think deep down, the weird phenomenon about Donald Trump that I see in the stock market is that people, for whatever reason, despite what we might be experiencing on the world scene, a lot of people trust him overall, and that's why the stock market stays up. Now, when it comes to the president of the United States, let's see here. Before I get to that, M. Wallen says, yes, Marvin Gaye's song rang true ever since it came out. That's right. Shout out to you. I'm glad you can recognize that song and the point I was trying to make. Pretty Ting says he usually never has anything amazing to say. Let's see if today is different. All right. Well, we're going to see. We'll see what happens. But I do think that today we're probably going to get some news that we haven't received yet, because for us to have these press conferences back to back, hopefully this one is quite revealing. I didn't feel like the last one offered anything new. I kind of felt like I understood where he was going, and I could come to a conclusion before he even gave a speech or what strategy he's using. Do you guys often think about, okay, New Jerseyan says, I hope that the president have some good news too, Mel. Okay, Deborah, did you hear what New Jerseyan had to say, Deborah? All right, I think Deborah gets my drift. Thank you. Very good. Pretty Ting says he already made threats. He made himself clear. Okay. Now, when it comes to the president of the United States, have you noticed he has sort of a madman type of strategy? So in the same speech, he'll say, we're going to leave Iran. And then and maybe 20 minutes later, he says, we're going to shred Iran to pieces, right? And I think that's a strategy he used. And it's probably, as you know, he wrote all of these books about the art of the deal. It looks like he's using a strategy about the art of war. So he's sending a message to Iran and the American people at the same time. And I know a lot of people are not fans of the president, but it is what it is, folks. I think the strategy he's using is the reason why the stock market is continuing to go up, even though you see a crisis happening throughout the world. I think many investors, and I know everybody's not investors, so I won't stay on it too long, but this is for those, when you go to a buffet, sometimes you hear things that, or you'll see food that you like, but then you pass over the food that you don't like, right? So right now, and for those that are looking to invest or that are investors, I would just say the reason why the stock market is up, because people overall, the investors, they think at the end of the day, the president is going to hit a home run. And that's the real truth of the matter. Now, that's not the same message for someone that does not like the president. There's nothing I can say or anybody would say if you don't like a president. We get that. But I'm explaining why the stock market is actually going up, because when he says that this is just an excursion, although the administration initially said it would be an incursion, right? I think the president has used that word excursion. And even if it was a mistake, I think those that are around him let him rock with it. After all, he is the president. But I think ultimately the reason why we see the stock market going up at this time is because people feel like it's going to be a brief moment. Now, here's the issue. Okay, we have, thank you, Lord Snow. Let's see. Thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate the donation. Says, as an independent voter, I'm independent too, by the way. The last two administrations have been disappointing and will go down as the worst since, okay, thank you, since Reagan. Thank you very much for that comment. I think you're being very balanced. I think that we need to get more to a strategy of following or supporting whoever is making the most sense. A lot of times we get attached to people because, hey, I'm a Democrat. I have to think this way. Oh, I'm a Republican. And I see people every day that take that stance. I don't think it's wise in any accord because that's how you get led down a dark alley, never to be seen or heard from again because you're so easy to follow people because you think you have this tie with them because they pretend or they tend to align with what you're looking for in life. And so many people are led astray. And that's what happened with Madoff, right? Madoff started his scamming in the church, right? Because he used people that he felt he had something in common with. And typically in a church or in any type of religious environment, you tend to sway or you tend to go with people because of that common denominator of God or because of Jesus, the mighty name of Jesus. Look at your neighbor and say the resurrection, right? And so, because of that trust from a congregation, a church, people have lost their lives because they are putting trust in a system and not using their own common sense. And that's the trouble, right? And that's the reason why in a lot of these churches you have young children that have been abused, even in the Catholic Church, right? All of these type of situations because people just automatically trust someone based on a religion or based on a Democrat. And it's very dangerous to have that type of mentality. So, yes, that's right, Lisa. People become brainwashed. They take an idea and they swallow it whole, right? Willing to die for it, right? In fact, I saw a report yesterday talking about some of these guys out in Iran. They're training to become, let's see if I can use appropriate words, um, where they use explosions, right, on themselves. I think I said it without saying it the way that YouTube would discredit the channel. But these people put explosives on themselves and they take out them. How do you train for that? What type of jargon? What type of nonsense are they teaching you to where you would strap an explosive to yourself and take yourself out along with other people? That's a whole different level, right? It's hard enough to get people to go to the doctor and want to take a needle. How in the world could you convince someone to go to such extremism, right? But we know it's true. It happens. We see it happen all the time. So we're not fighting against people that are the same. I don't think the average American has the ability to pull that off. Now, I mean, you'll find a few extremists here and there, but we have to take a look at what's causing people to be so far out there. And you know, when you look at this at the end of the day, a lot of these people are claiming they're doing these missions for God. If you look into Israel, and if you go back, now we're not talking about the Zionism, the current Israel of today. There's a difference. But if you go to the Israel from the Bible in the Hebrew scriptures, right, you find the Jews or the Israelites, whichever way you want to stretch it. Oh, yeah, that's a good one, Deborah. Unsubscribe themselves. I'll try to remember that. That sounds much better, right? Okay. If you go to the Hebrew scriptures, those individuals, they have their God that they serve, right? And then you have the introduction, the real introduction of Jesus when it comes to Matthew, the Gospels, all the way to Revelation. And that's why, like in the Christian church, you'll have a lot of individuals that are Christians and they'll say, Jesus is God. Okay? They say Jesus is God. Then you have Christians that say Jesus is the Son of God. Okay? These are real facts. All reading the same Bible. But what I'm trying to help you to understand, then you also have Islam. They have their God, right? everything is Allah. Did you guys see what Donald Trump, the President Trump, wrote? He says, all praises to Allah, when he talked about how he was going to really destroy these effing bastards. Did you see what he posted? Okay. But they're doing what they do for God too. Everybody's doing what they do for God at the end of the day. But then when you read the books that they, report on, the books that they say they believe, sometimes when you read the book, you read the Bible, it talks about love. So how does that work? How do you love a man, love a woman that you seek to blow to smithereens? How does this work? Everybody's doing this for God, right? And you know what is also strange about it? When you go back to the Torah or you look through the Hebrew scriptures, the Israelites were looking for the promised land, right? So they're out here seeking a land. And guess what? Those of Islam, they're seeking a holy land too. And they're seeking the same land. So how are you going to get these people to ever come to a situation where they can actually get along with each other? And guess what's weird about this, right? So you have the Hebrew scriptures from Genesis to Malachi. We know what's all the blessings the Israelites are supposed to receive. They're supposed to be God's chosen people. But we have modern Israel sitting in that seat. But then I have people that come on the channel just about every day saying, well, the modern Israel is not the Israel from the Bible. And then you have the senators, right? I showed you guys where Ted sat there and he basically explained that when he's engaging in the Senate, right? When these guys are engaging in Congress, in the back of their mind, when they make decisions about Israel, they're looking at Israel from a standpoint of the Bible. And they hear those scriptures in their head that say, those that bless Israel will be blessed, and those that curse Israel will be cursed. And this is what Ted, I showed you guys where he actually said this. This is the reason why when he makes these decisions for our U.S. government, it can never be against Israel. So guess what? The modern Israel, because they sit in that seat, because when people go to church and they try to learn about Christianity, because they're using the Bible, right? I think I have one here. Well, I thought I did. I think I took it with me on vacation. But anyway, because they're using the Bible and because the Hebrew scriptures are first, Genesis to Malachi, actually Christianity comes in at Matthew to Revelation. That's a whole deep discussion, but I could prove it to you very well. But because we're all reading that Israel was God's chosen people, in the back of your mind, you think that the Israel today is God's chosen people. And that's when we see all of these wars and reports of wars happening. We tend to what? We think that this is a righteous cause in some way, right? Because a lot of people don't quite understand their history. They become very brainwashed off of concepts that they learn, or maybe they just learn enough. Sometimes my grandmother says, sometimes you learn just enough to destroy yourself. And that's what happens, right? So now we have people who are professing to be Christians. They read in the Bible about Israel being God's chosen people, and we're being grafted on because of Jesus. And then they see Israel today, and they see all of these wars, and they don't know how to decipher the difference. And that could be a big issue. And let me tell you why it's a big issue. Because you have the senators, you have people at high levels making decisions about Americans' lives, and they're basing it on Bible teachings for modern day Israel, which even the Israelites here in New York, they say that this Israel state is Zionism, and it's not the same as Judaism. So these isms has people so confused, and everybody's trying to get salvation, but they don't quite understand how this works. Okay, so it becomes quite dangerous because now you might say, well, this is not a big deal. I don't even believe in God. I don't believe in Jesus. I'm not involved, right? Or I don't care about what's happening in Israel, but then your nephew, your son, your daughter, somebody you know, they get called, they get drafted into this war. Now it becomes your problem. Not only that, if you say it's not your problem, how so when you're paying more for gas? Actually, before this started, fuel was down below $3 on average. So now, because we're taking up this whole war, right? Now fuel is over $4. So that cuts into your food. Well, now food is more expensive too. So that's pushing your wallet really tight, right? And these are concerns. So all of these decisions, but I'm just trying to help you to understand a lot of this is all stemming to a people that are professed to be sons of God, God's chosen people, right? And the world is so screwed up today. It's so screwed up because people are so confused and they're trying to use principles from 3,000 years ago to the Israelites in a modern world, and they don't understand the difference, right? It could be very damning, just to say the least. So here's the key. Whenever we take up anything in life, I think it's very important to do your research and understand where this came from. Even in my personal life, I grew up in a very religious household, but a lot of times when it comes to religion, right? And I just showed you how we're affected with religion in a large way. But a lot of times when you're a child, you can't control which household you grow up in. You know, you can't control what your last name is going to be. If your grandmother or your mother believed that there's a spaghetti god that lives on the moon, then it's more than likely you're going to believe in a spaghetti god that grew up on the moon, right? This is just how it works. It's not until you become an adult and you learn how to do critical thinking, that's when you start to ask those hard questions. That's why, even here on the channel, even though I'm independent, I like Tucker Carlson because he had the ability, even though I don't agree with him, he had the ability to say, wait a minute, this something's not right here. Let me employ some critical thinking, right? Let me think about this to see if this is really making sense. And sometimes when people do that, they're often ostracized, especially by the big group, because the big group is saying, hey, what happened to you? You used to believe with us, and now you're starting to ask these questions. And old folks back in the day says, hey, boy, don't you ask no questions, right? You just go along with the flow. Don't ask no questions. But see, people learn how to think for themselves. They start asking those hard questions like, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me this Israel that we're fighting this war with, they're the Israel from the Bible? What does the Bible say? Well, if you go to the Bible, now it just so happens that I'm pretty versed in the Bible, so I can swing on any level, right? Whatever scholars or whoever you want to bring, it's okay. But in the book of Esther, I showed last night that the Israel, they basically took out 75,000 Persians. Now, modern day Iran is the Persia of old, okay? So even this conflict that we see today is actually in the Bible, but it's Israel that was wiping out Iran. Okay. Most people don't know that. They go to church every Sunday. They don't have a clue that all of this fighting and all of this going on, even though Israel has assumed the seat of the Israel of the Bible, and that could be very well debated. And if you debate it too strong, they're going to hit you and say, oh, you know the word they use when you talk bad about Israel, right? So we have to be careful. But what I'm saying is most people don't quite understand the difference between the two. They're just lost, but they make decisions that affect our lives because of it. So that's just my point for that. Because you can't really the way the world is set up, you cannot be a Christian today without embracing Israel. And that's why you have Netanyahu actually saying, oh, we're good to the Christians now. But then we see videos when Christians go to Israel, they're being spit on. Oh, wait a minute. Whoa, what's going on here? Why is the Christians, And then even if you want to go to a different level, most people don't quite understand. And I'm only taking up your time today because we're waiting for the president to come on. But let me show you how deep this goes for those of you who, and typically this is not a part of my script today. I typically cover the news, but I want to show you something. When you go to the Gospels and you have Jesus Christ, okay, it's very important. If you don't walk away with anything from this lesson, it's not really a lesson. Me babbling, right? When Jesus went before Pilate, right? Pilate was the governor, right? The Jews, when you see the case of Stephen in the Bible, he was stoned to death. So the Jews had the ability to kill, right? But look at how the narrative is written. The Jews take Jesus before the governor Pilate, right? And Pilate says, he talks to Jesus, and Jesus says, he answers the questions and so forth, right? Pilate says, I see nothing wrong in Jesus, right? I see nothing wrong with this man. Okay, this man here, I see nothing wrong. You know what the Jews says? When Pilate says, I'll take who do you want me to kill? You want me to kill Jesus or Barabbas? The Jews says, because Barabbas becomes the scapegoat. That's what that term scapegoat. He becomes a scapegoat and he's allowed to go free, right? He's guilty of sedition or whatever. Okay. But they says, kill Jesus and let his blood be upon us and our children. Do you guys catch that when you read the Bible? Is your pastor teaching you on that level? This is what this is what the Jews had to say in regards to Jesus. So wait a minute. So how is the Christians a part of Israel when the Jews in the Bible are saying put them to death? You see what I'm saying? So it's very important that if you whatever you're doing in life, you really have to understand the whole breakdown and how it affects your life on a deeper level. Because a lot of times when you listen to people, they say, "Oh, I heard a guy this morning. He was a big rapper. He's quoting something from the Bible, right?" Now I know the Bible quite well, but it was something that he actually heard someone say. It was not in the Bible. I could tell him right off the jump because I know it. That's not in the scriptures, but that's just how life works. People hear something their grandmothers say. Oh, they say that's in the Bible. In fact, when I was growing up in the South, they say, the Bible speaks of that, right? Okay. So if anything you take away from that, you what it does, it protects you from falling for just any little gospel or spill. So when you hear Netanyahu talking about how Christians and Israel are together, but then you start to realize, wait a minute, something is off here because it's actually if you're gonna sit in the seat of the Jews, right? You also have to embrace the fact that the Romans, it wasn't the Romans put Jesus to death. This is if you follow the Gospels, right? But it was actually at the behest of the Jews. And a lot of people don't quite get that. I don't know what's happening with the show here, but I guess they're about to start. Let's see what time it is. We have 6 minutes, and I think I've said enough about that. Let's get to some of the comments. Okay, here we go. So the president is going to be up in about 6 minutes. And the key to this, my message today, is how all of this ties in together. You really have to understand what's going on if you want to be really successful. And critical thinking is a beautiful thing because a lot of times it'll help you to come to some conclusions that you may not be prepared for. You know, it's a tough moment for you to grow up and you have all these concepts in your head and you believe one way, and then you start asking those hard questions and you start to realize, hey, well, where did you get this from? Oh, well, Billy Bob told me. Well, who told Billy? Oh, it was Billy Bob Tuesday. Next thing you know, you don't even have a leg to stand on. And then you get a senator like Ted that's sitting there saying, I'm making decisions for all Americans because in the Bible it says, Israel, if you bless them, you will be blessed. And if you curse them, you will be cursed. And then he never stops to think, well, is the modern day Israel the same Israel from the Bible, even if you want to believe that? You see what I'm saying? So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Let me try to get to a few of the comments. I went on my whole spiel here. Okay, I see we have a lot of MAGA here today. Nice to have you guys. We're almost there. Dark Spink says Israel was made in the 1920s. Okay, thank you for your comment. All right, what's up, Motley? What's happening? Shout out to you. Okay, all right. Let's see here. Wow, we have South. Those in Israel today are not the biblical Jews. Okay, I think I broke that down pretty nicely, but I could go there further. But you'll have to catch me when I'm in the mood again. Hazel says, thank you, Mr. President, for all you do. Okay, very good. Last night, there was a pretty good show. Calvin did a show with, her name was Dorothy Birch, and they talked about Christian nationalism. And that's a whole different story that we could, I could really go there with Christian nationalism, but I just don't have the amount of time for that now. Okay, let's see. Lori says, I meant Jesus earlier, not God earlier. I misspoke. I apologize. Lori, no need to apologize. AI says, no lies detected. Okay, very good. Shout out. Okay, thank you. And see, let me go there. I got a few more minutes. Now, in my real life, right, and my passion is Bible scholarship, okay? So whenever I get a chance to talk about it, don't mind me. Just charge that to the game. But anyway, when it comes to the scriptures, right, and I'm tying it into what we're seeing today in our lives, right? Israel was looking for this promised land. Okay, God promised them a land flowing with milk and honey. Sounds like a lot of diarrhea to me. Milk and honey is not a good diet. But anyway, we're going to go with the narrative, right? And if you look at where they started their journey and to where they would have to go to experience the promised land, 40 years, it literally would take you, it should have taken them probably less than a year to walk, right? So a lot of things that we read in life are just narrative. It's good narrative, but the way you run into issues is when you don't understand that it's an allegory. And even in the Greek scriptures, Paul says that these are allegories, but because they're written in a different time frame, people swallow it as whole and they try to justify it as though it's real things that happen. Let me explain to you guys at a high level, right? In the book of Genesis, when you have the creation days, right? And you can check this out in your spare time. I believe it's on day 4, you have the fruit trees, it says, right? So on day 4, or it could be day 3, I'm off on the day maybe, okay? But then the very next day, it says that the greater luminary and the lesser luminary are formed. So how do you have, with photosynthesis, how do you have fruit trees before you have the sun and the moon created? Okay? So that's where critical thinking brings you back to earth and help you to understand that a lot of this is not necessarily written for facts. It's written to teach lessons and guide people on a spiritual level. But the issue is most people only look in just enough to get confused and then they try to, persuade others. Sometimes you'll see people out preaching and they're standing there, they're teaching about the Bible and all of this. And then I go up to them and I start asking them some tough questions. And they're like, oh my goodness, oh my, where'd you get that from? Oh, or they're just taught that when anybody questions something, they're automatically from the devil. You see what I mean? So in life, we have to really implore critical thinking, even when it comes to, and this is how we got here. I think we're down to 1 minute. When it comes to being a Democrat or Republican, it's very dangerous to just say, I have to think this way, instead of just asking hard questions, or I have to think this way because I'm blue, I'm a Democrat, or I'm a Republican. Well, what about this? The guy did this wrong, or should we be supporting Israel and all of this? Oh, I can't think this way. I can't ask these questions. And even at the dinner table, If I would ask these questions, they're going to say, oh, yeah, what's wrong with you? This is not the way we think, you see? But the younger generation, that's what always happens. People think a certain way, and the younger generation comes along and they start learning things and they start asking the right questions. Next thing you know, they're like, well, hey, grandpa, this don't make sense anymore. We need to do this a little bit different, okay? So that's just how it goes. All right, so that's going to be it for that. Let's see what happens with this whole. Let's see what happens today in regards to the president. Hopefully, there's some good news, but we hope for the best. We prepare for the worst, right? Lisa says, "United we stand." Right? Shouldn't be about a color. If you want to have a narrow-minded gang mentality, it's only going to get you but so far. When Iran show up in the United States, the last thing you're going to ask your neighbor is if you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you're a Jew or a Gentile. Those things are going to go out the window. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see here. If we have any questions going. All right. I think we're pretty good. All right. Chad says, United we stand against this war. Okay. All right, guys. Hit the like button, share, subscribe. Thank you very much. We're just waiting for the President of the United States to come forth.
Use the stick mic to talk. I told her to put it in her ear, and she picked up the stick with it. Region, do you still have it in? Yep. Volume adjusted.
All right, guys, we're waiting on the president to come in and tell us what's happening in regards to Iran. Hit the like button, share, subscribe to the channel, lock in with us. Tonight, we'll be doing a deep dive into the Nancy Guthrie case because that's what everybody voted for. I thought we had moved on somewhat, but it looks like there's a high demand for that. So I will be doing the breakdown today. Once this is over, I will be doing the news at noon. So that'll be a separate show. We'll have to close this out and start the news session. But right now, we're waiting on the president to give us some guidance about this war. And maybe there's some good news. There's some peace, some hopes of peace coming down the pipeline.
There's a space for a ladder way in the back. Or does it go all the way to the door? There is a space. Just go.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with you, and happy Easter. We had a great Easter. This is one of our better Easters, I think, in a lot of different ways. I can say militarily, it's been one of the best. So, good afternoon. We have quite a bit to discuss. We'll go into pretty good detail. And we have the people that are most involved. We'll give you exactitude. And we're here today to celebrate the success of one of the largest, most complex, most harrowing combat searches. I guess you would call it a search and rescue mission ever attempted by the military. Generally, when planes are knocked down in war, especially when you're fighting a strong group, an evil group, you can't really do this because you send in 200 men to pick up one. And it's something that's usually not attempted as much as you want to attempt. And bad things happen to that one or two. And in this case, we did two, and might not have been attempted before, but we did. And we had great talent. We got a little luck too, I would say. And we were helped by a lot of people, a lot of great people. And it was an honor to be involved with it. It's very historic. This is a A rescue that's very historic. It'll go down in the books. Late Thursday night, an American F-15 fighter jet went down deep inside enemy territory in Iran while participating in Operation Epic Fury, where we're doing unbelievably well, well at a level that nobody's ever seen before. The entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night. Both members of the crew ejected from the aircraft and landed alive on Iranian soil. I immediately was asked to make a decision. I ordered the U.S. Armed Forces to do whatever was necessary to bring our brave warriors back home. A risky decision, because we could have ended up with 100 dead as opposed to 1 or 2. It's a hard decision to make. But in the United States military, we leave no American behind. We don't do it. Within hours, our armed forces deployed 21 military aircraft into hostile airspace, many flying at very low altitude, being shot by bullets. You bring rifles into play when you're going that low, but there are also certain advantages. And in broad daylight over Iran for 7 hours, at times facing very, very heavy enemy fire. We have a helicopter that's got a lot of bullets in it. It's amazing. We just realized how good those weapons are. Those our machines are. Nobody has the equipment that we have, and nobody has the military that we have. Not even close. We're the most powerful military anywhere in the world by far. The flight crews and warfighters aboard those aircraft took extraordinary risks to rescue their fellow service members. This first wave of search and rescue forces successfully located the pilot of the F-15, and he was extracted from enemy territory by an HH-60 Jolly Green II helicopter. Fabulous machine as our warriors faced gunfire at very close range. It's amazing that when you look at the machinery, what happened, that nobody was even injured. Meanwhile, the second crew member, a weapons system officer, highly respected colonel, had landed a significant distance away from the pilot. When you're going at those speeds, even if you go out 2 or 3 seconds later, it's miles and miles away because you're going fast. He was injured quite badly and stranded in an area teeming with terrorists from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps rough group, as well as besieged militia and local authorities. Many, on top of everything else, they told the communities actually within inside of Iran, the people of Iran, they were given a tremendous incentive to find this pilot. Despite the peril, the officer followed his training and climbed into the treacherous mountain terrain and started climbing toward a higher altitude, something they were trained to do in order to evade capture. They want to always go as far away from the site of the shoot down. You want to go as far away because they all head right to that site. You want to be as far away as you can. And he was injured, and he was an amazing, amazing thing. He scaled cliff faces, bleeding rather profusely, treated his own wounds, and contacted American forces to transmit his location. They have a very sophisticated beeper type apparatus that is on them at all times. And when they go out on these missions, they make sure they have lots of battery space and they're in good shape. And this one worked really well, amazingly, saved his life. We immediately mobilized a massive operation to retrieve him from the mountain holdout. And he kept going higher and higher. The mountain kept getting rougher and rougher and really very, very hard to find. The second rescue mission involved 155 aircraft, including 4 bombers, 64 fighters, 48 refueling tankers, 13 rescue aircraft, and more. We were bringing them all over, and a lot of it was subterfuge. We wanted to have them think he was in a different location because they had a vast military force out there. Thousands of people were looking. So we wanted them to look in different areas. So we were scattered all over like we were right on top of them. We had 7 different locations where they thought, and they were very confused. They said, well, wait a minute, they've got groups here, they've got groups there. It's an amazing thing. I was listening to these great people, these great generals. General Raisin Kane was amazing, and Pete Hegseth was amazing. But I listened to the whole thing. It was pretty amazing. So they had all these different sites where everybody thought he was located. We think we have him over there because they have 9 planes circling a little area that's 25 miles down the coast. So in a breathtaking show of skill and precision, lethality and force, America's military descended on the area, the real area, engaged the enemy, rescued the stranded officer, destroyed all threats, and exited Iranian territory while taking no casualties of any kind. The heroic F-15 weapon system officer had evaded capture on the ground in Iran for almost 48 hours. That's a long time when you're in tough shape and when you're bleeding. It's a long time. When we left, as you probably know, we had 2 large planes, pretty old planes that carried a lot. We needed a lot more equipment going in than coming out, obviously, because going in, we needed to be able to scale mountains. And we had a lot of equipment. But the sand was sandy, wet sand. So we thought there may be a problem taking off because of the weight of the plane. And then we also had all the men jumping back onto the planes. And they got pretty well bogged down. And we had a contingency plan, which was unbelievable, where lighter, faster aircraft came in and they took them out. We blew up the old planes. We blew them up to smithereens because we had equipment on the planes that frankly we'd like to take, but I don't think it was worthwhile spending another 4 hours there taking it off. So we didn't want anybody to have, we have the best equipment anywhere in the world. We didn't want anybody examining our anti-aircraft and other equipment. So these were large planes that were old and pretty old, and we blew them up. And we had faster, lighter planes come in, and they were able to land on the sand. We needed the bigger planes because we had so much equipment that we needed. We took 3 helicopters over there, which were very strongly used and couldn't have lived without them. They did, and they performed unbelievably well. And if you'd see it, you wouldn't believe it. They came off the plane, and these guys had them. The rotors were off. They rebuilt these helicopters in less than 10 minutes. And that was one of the more amazing things. These are helicopters, small, unbelievably powerful, but small, very small, so it can get into certain areas. And they got them off the plane, and they rebuilt all 3 of them in a matter of less than 10 minutes. It's pretty amazing what the genius of these people. Who would think that? You'd think it would take 5 days to build them. And in some companies, it would take 5 days, and they wouldn't do it well. But they served us well. As Commander-in-Chief, I never forget the extraordinary risk taken by the warriors that we send into battle and the genius. I mean, think of it, having a contingency of 3 planes waiting because we think the sand is so bad that we probably won't be able to take off. And the planes really got bogged. This was not much of a runway. This was a farm, not a runway. It's a farm, but it did the trick. But to have a contingency as opposed to having to wait 2 days, can you imagine right in the middle? This was central. This was right, you would call it central casting if you were doing a movie for location. And probably the toughest area of Iran where we'd be sitting there. So these planes came in, those pilots came in so fast and so quick and got out of there. Everybody got aboard and just got 15-minute intervals. 1 load out, 1 load out, 1 load out. It happened. And we were watching and we said, that's amazing. It's in many ways, I was almost more impressed by the contingency that we had than the fact that, if we would have had a runway or decent soil, but it was an amazing thing. But we thank God for every single one of them and the talent. The genius is not even talent, it's genius. It's the whole ball game, every one of them. If you look at what we did with Maduro, we went into a military compound, a massive, with thousands and thousands of soldiers, and within a matter of minutes, and he lived behind iron doors. There were steel doors, broke them down so quickly. And within almost minutes, he was in the back of these planes. It was a similar group. Incredible. We have incredibly talented people. And if the time comes, we move heaven and earth to bring them home safely. We're going to bring our people home safely. I want to thank every member of the U.S. Armed Forces involved in these historic operations. They really were historic. It's just not something that's done. And you'd understand it. Not that they don't want to do it, but when you're going into areas, when you look at these helicopters, when you look at the amount of bullets and everything else that they took, when you go into these areas, you don't come out like we came out. God was watching us. I tell you, well, it was the Easter. We were in an Easter territory, I guess, but God was watching us. It's amazing. Because when you look at the machinery, they took damage. It tells you, first thing I said is, these are unbelievable machines, how they flew back and not even much of a problem. But these two extraordinary rescues, because it was two, and as you probably know, we didn't talk about the first one for an hour. Then somebody leaked something, which we'll hopefully find that leaker. We're looking very hard to find that leaker, and talked about there's somebody missing. They basically said that we have one and there's somebody missing. Well, they didn't know there was somebody missing until this leaker gave the information. So whoever it was, we think we'll be able to find it out, because we're going to go to the media company that released it, and we're going to say, national security, give it up or go to jail. And we know who, and you know who we're talking about, because some things you can't do. Because when they did that, all of a sudden, the entire country of Iran knew that there was a pilot that was somewhere on their land that was fighting for his life. And it also made it much more difficult for the pilots and for the people going in to search for him. All of a sudden, they know that there's somebody out there. They see all these planes coming in. It became a much more difficult operation, because a leaker leaked that we have one, we've rescued one, but there's another one out there that we're trying to get. So actually, the country, Iran, put out a major notice, you all saw it, offering a very big award for anybody that captures the pilot. So in addition to a hostile, very talented, very good, very evil military, we had millions of people trying to get an award. So when you add that to it, but we have to find that leaker, because that's a sick person. Probably didn't realize the extent of how bad it was. I can't imagine that the person did, but we're going to find out. It's national security, and the person that did the story will go to jail if he doesn't say, and that doesn't last long. And I think everybody would understand it. They put this mission at great risk. They put that man at great risk, and they put the hundreds of people that went in looking for him, because everyone now knows that we're going in. Over the past 37 days, America's armed forces have carried out more than 10,000 combat flights over Iran, unheard of, striking more than 13,000 targets. The F-15 we lost last week was the first manned aircraft down by the enemy in this entire operation, with thousands and thousands of flights. They got lucky. It was a lucky hit. You know, eventually you get lucky. But we got lucky too, because we got both of them back. But it's a record that is unparalleled in the history of military air operations. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. It's such an honor to be involved with it. We were up late at night, and then we were waiting for those contingent planes to come in, and we say, come on, let's go, get in, because they're waiting out on this farm without a runway, with wet, crummy soil, sand, mostly sand, wet sand, and it eats planes alive. And we're waiting, and we're saying, I hope that one can land and take off. And they came in like magic. Boom, 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 one after another. It was like genius. So impressed by that, because we were a little concerned. We said, boy, If they don't get in and get up fast, we're sitting in them. And that's called Iran Prime, right, General? That's where the whole bet is. And here we are sitting there waiting for a plane, but they came in so fast and so hard, and these guys knew exactly what to. Let's go, come on, get in, let's go. Blah. They came one right after another, not at the same time. They don't want to come at the same time. They had to come right after each other. They didn't have any room. There was barely any room to land. Tiny little patch of very wet earth and sand. So I'm so proud of the people that I have standing up here with me and many others at work. I mean, so many. Steve Witkoff's over here. He's doing fantastically. Jared Kushner. But the people that are here, the job they did is amazing. And I think I'm going to introduce the head of the CIA, and he is a man he's central casting, okay? If we cast a movie, he's going to play the head of the CIA. He's one of the few. John Ratcliffe, he did a phenomenal job that night. He did something that I don't know if you want to talk about it. If you want, you can. I'm not sure you're supposed to. I'm not going to talk about it, but the CIA was very responsible for finding this little speck. It's like they used an expression on one of the shows. A general was talking about, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, finding this pilot. And the CIA was unbelievable. And you may, if you can, you'll talk. It might be classified, in which case I'd have to put him in jail if he talks about it. And I don't want to put him in jail. He doesn't deserve that. So, John, do you want to say a few words? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a privilege to be here with you today to share what we can about this exceptional mission and to recognize the ingenuity and bravery of those who executed it, as well as the leadership and resolve of the president who ordered it. One thing that has been clear to me in this role is that the flawless military operations that the Department of War is known for are hostage to flawless intelligence. We saw that in the skies over Iran in Operation Midnight Hammer last summer. We witnessed it in Venezuela during Operation Absolute Resolve. We've seen it against the cartels in the Western Hemisphere, and we're seeing it every day in Operation Epic Fury, including this mission to rescue an aviator buried deep behind enemy lines. Because it is the unique tradition of the U.S. Armed Forces that we leave no man or woman behind, this was a no-fail mission. That was the spirit in which the president put us to work, and we were determined not to let him down or our airmen down. As an agency, the CIA possesses unique capabilities that only the president can deploy. Some of these capabilities fall under covert action authorities. And because covert means exactly that, I'm not going to be able to tell you everything that you want to know. At the president's direction, we deployed both human assets and exquisite technologies that no other intelligence service in the world possesses to a daunting challenge comparable to hunting for a single grain of sand in the middle of a desert. This was also a race against the clock, as it was critical that we locate the downed aviator as quickly as possible, while at the same time keeping our enemies misdirected. For that reason, in addition to the human and technical assets deployed by the president to find our airmen, CIA executed a deception campaign to confuse the Iranians who were desperately hunting for our airmen. On Saturday morning, we achieved our primary objective by finding and providing confirmation that one of America's best and bravest was alive and concealed in a mountain crevice, still invisible to the enemy, but not to the CIA. That confirmation was relayed by Secretary Hegseth to the president, and the operation quickly moved to the execution phase. Following the successful exfiltration on Saturday night, our intelligence reflects that the Iranians were embarrassed and ultimately humiliated by the success of this audacious rescue mission. When the president asked me to lead the CIA, he made it clear: get back to basics, no politics, no agendas, tackle the hardest problems, and execute the toughest missions. This president is about results. And now that's what his CIA is about too. The professionals at the agency and at the Department of War deserve immense credit for their flawless execution during this daring mission. Their skill, creativity, and courage are unmatched on the battlefield wherever they step. But none of that matters, and all of that is wasted without a president with the political courage to put them into action. Mr. President, I've had the privilege of seeing you act with political courage in the best interest of the United States up close on a daily basis, and I'm grateful that this successful mission has given the American people a window into that as well. The Secretary and Chairman will tell you that our service members' confidence is boosted by a Commander-in-Chief who has their back the same way they have yours. And I know that the confidence of CIA's officers is boosted by the knowledge that their work is informing a president who's not afraid to make the hardest decisions when the stakes are highest. And to the American people, your confidence should be boosted by knowing that the security of the nation is in the hands of a president who's willing to take on problems that have confounded both sides of the political aisle for nearly half a century. It is an honor to serve under a leader who just proved that you can believe him when he says, no matter what, we will leave no one behind. We will come for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, John, thank you for the collaboration of the CIA as well. Incredible and ongoing partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Americans, and especially the brave warriors in our armed forces, over this Easter weekend, the United States military has once again proved why we possess the greatest fighting force the world has ever known. In two extraordinary combat search and rescue operations deep inside enemy territory in Iran, our warriors executed missions of breathtaking skill, courage, and precision. When our warriors are unleashed, as this president has allowed them to be, they are unstoppable. When American airmen were down behind enemy lines, our forces and our president did not hesitate. Special operators supported by elite air crews and intelligence professionals moved swiftly and decisively into treacherous mountain terrain under the constant threat of Iranian forces closing in. Ultimately, it was an impotent Iranian threat. And today, as the CIA director mentioned, Iran's military, and we know this, is embarrassed and humiliated, and they should be. Now, these are not routine operations. They were high-risk, high-stakes missions conducted in the heart of enemy territory. This was not just barely into Iran. This was deep into Iran, involving coordinated strikes to suppress threats, deception tactics to protect our teams, and full synchronization across air, ground, and special operations. The Iranians are still asking themselves right now, how did the Americans do this? One downed airman evaded capture for more than a day, scaling rugged ridges while hunted by the enemy. When he was finally able to activate his emergency transponder, his first message was simple and it was powerful. He sent a message, God is good. In that moment of isolation and danger, his faith and fighting spirit shone through. You see, shot down on a Friday, Good Friday, hidden in a cave, a crevice, all of Saturday, and rescued on Sunday. Flown out of Iran as the sun was rising on Easter Sunday. A pilot reborn, all home and accounted for, a nation rejoicing. God is good. Despite incoming fire and unforgiving conditions, our troops brought every American home. No American lives were lost. We leave no man behind, and that is not luck. It's the result of unmatched training, superior technology, an unbreakable warrior ethos, and sheer American grit. Our special operators, pilots, and support crews performed with near perfection under fire, and they were lethal. Just ask any Iranian soldier who dared attempt to get anywhere near that pilot before or during that mission. Death from above. Our troops turned a potential tragedy into a resounding demonstration of American resolve and capability. That's what excellence in uniform looks like. But make no mistake about it. None of this would have been possible without the courageous leadership and ironclad determination of President Donald J. Trump. From the moment our airmen went down, President Trump made it clear we will leave no one behind. The first mission, the first of two, was an audacious daylight thunder run right up the middle. It was authorized in less than 2 hours from that pilot going down when we knew where he was. And it was authorized in the middle of the night, because anybody that's worked from this man knows he's up in the middle of the night. Authorized immediately, without hesitation, audaciously. The second mission, as soon as we knew where that pilot was, and John was certainly helpful in that, also executed immediately. You know, I looked up at my screen when the final mission was complete inside our SCIF, our secure facility. And we have a running VTC, a running coordination cell. And the top of it read 45 minutes and 45 hours and 56 minutes. For 45 hours and 56 minutes, we held that call open for coordination. From the moment our pilots went down, our mission was unblinking. The call never dropped, the meeting never stopped, the planning never ceased. The president demanded rapid, decisive action. He backed our military with the full weight of his resolve, refusing to let enemy propaganda or tactical setbacks deter us. His leadership ensured that every lethal and non-lethal resource was brought to bear, that our forces had the authorities and the support they needed to succeed. When the president says he has the backs of our warfighters, he means it. And it means a great deal, and it's a big difference on the battlefield. President Trump understands that peace through strength is not a slogan. It is a doctrine that saves American lives. His unwavering commitment to rebuilding our military and restoring the warrior spirit has paid dividends in missions just like this one. Under his command, America projects power with confidence and brings our people home with victory. And that continues today, by the way. Per the president's direction, today will be the largest volume of strikes since day one of this operation. Tomorrow, even more than today. And then Iran has a choice. Choose wisely, because this president does not play around. You can ask Soleimani, you can ask Maduro, you can ask Khomeini. To those heroes who planned and executed these rescues, your nation stands in awe. I stand in awe. The chairman stands in awe. We all stand in awe of your professionalism and bravery. We serve for you. You embody the very best of America. To the rescued airmen and their families, welcome home. Your courage and endurance, the quiet declaration of faith amid the storm, inspires us all. God is good every day. And to our adversaries watching from Tehran, let this be a clear message. The United States military will go anywhere, at any time, to protect our own and complete the mission. We execute with precision. We control the skies. You see, we flew for 7 hours in daylight over Iran to get the first pilot. And we flew 7 hours in the middle of the night to get the second. And Iran did nothing about it. We fight with honor, and under President Trump's leadership, we win. So God bless our troops, God bless President Trump, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. A note before I start, I know many of you want specific details in these briefings. We will share what we can, but I will retain what I must in the event that we have to go do this again sometime. And I cannot stress the importance, as the President said, around operational security. The Secretary and I will do a more detailed briefing tomorrow morning, and we look forward to sharing the details that we can. On Thursday, 2 April at 10:10 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:40 in the morning, local Iran time, the Joint Personnel Recovery Center, which handles the Central Command area of responsibility, declared an isolated personnel recovery event for a U.S. Air Force F-15E Strike Eagle, call sign Dude 44, which was down in hostile Iranian territory. The pilot and weapons system officer had both safely ejected and were isolated behind enemy lines. Following confirmation of active rescue beacons and on the direction of the Secretary and by order of the President, a rescue operation was launched with the stated purpose of bringing both Americans home safely. As the Secretary said several hours later on the morning, after positively locating the front seater, call sign Dude 44 Alpha, and aware of an aggressive ongoing search by the enemy, a U.S. Central Command plan was approved by the Secretary and the President. Shortly thereafter, a U.S. Air Force Combat Search and Rescue Task Force comprised of A-10 Warthogs in their Sandy role, and I'll describe what that is in a minute, HC-130 Combat King 2s, HH-60 Jolly Green 2 helicopters, and Air Force Special Warfare Airmen, a package comprised of combat rescue officers and pararescueman operators, audaciously penetrated enemy territory in broad daylight to find, fix, and recover Dude 44 Alpha from behind enemy lines. This was an incredibly dangerous mission, an incredibly dangerous undertaking, but a filled promise made to every American warfighter that you will not be left behind. We will always come find you, and we will always bring you home. Over the next hours, the Search and Rescue Task Force crossed the beach, entered into Iranian airspace, protected by a fighter strike package, and moved into the objective area, all under fire. En route, as some of you have seen on social media, the helicopters took gas off the C-130s and pressed onward and forward up into the objective area. While this was ongoing and out in front of them, the Sandy flight of A-10s and other remotely piloted aircraft, drones, and other tactical aircraft were violently suppressing and engaging the enemy in a close-in gunfight to keep them away from the front seater and allow the pickup force to get into the objective area. During this engagement, one of the Sandy aircraft, the one primarily responsible for communicating with the downed pilot, was hit by enemy fire. This pilot continued to fight, continued the mission, and then upon exit, flew his aircraft into another country and determined that the airplane was not landable. This was one of our A-10 Sandy aircraft. The pilot then made the decision to eject over friendly territory and was quickly and safely recovered and is doing fine. After picking up Dude 44 Alpha, the HH-60 Jolly Green fight was engaged by every single person in Iran who had a small arms weapon. And one of the aircraft, the trailing aircraft, took several hits. The crew sustained minor injury, and they are going to be fine. A note for those of you that do not know what a Sandy does. Named after the flight call sign that did this very mission in Vietnam, flying A-1 Sky Raiders and A-7 Corsairs, a Sandy has one mission: get to the survivor, bring the rescue force forward, and put themselves between that survivor on the ground and the enemy. They are committed to this. This is what they live for, and this is what they've trained for over many, many years. The A-10 force and the rescue force did a fantastic job rescuing Dude 44 Alpha. He was recovered Friday afternoon. As I said, and the nation needs to know this, this was an incredibly brave and courageous mission, and a testament to the courage, skill, and tenacity of the joint force and our leaders. And especially a daylight option, having the guts to try, means so much to so many. Meanwhile, the backseater, as the President and the Secretary have said, had continued to work and survive. Through the hours of daylight, Dude 44 Bravo, the backseater, evaded. Using every means available, the efforts of the United States military, the Central Intelligence Agency, and others were attempting to find and locate with precision Dude 44 Bravo, the backseater. A note on the backseater and the front seater. The single most important contributor to a successful rescue operation is the spirit of attack inside the heart of that downed aviator. Their will to survive, their will to evade, their will to recover is everything. In this case, the backseater's absolute commitment to surviving made much of our efforts possible. On Saturday, 4 April, after establishing positive communications with the backseater, we learned, as the president said, that he was injured and actively evading enemy forces. And thanks to our interagency partners, we were able to get eyes on his location and positively ID him. Throughout this entire time, the enemy force continued to search for 44 Bravo, and the joint force continued to strike them over and over and over again. Fighting off marginal weather in Iran and the enemy's search for a second time on Saturday, at the recommendation of the CENTCOM commander and at the approval of the Secretary and the President, we launched a rescue task force to recover Dude 44 Bravo. Again, this came to the President and the Secretary for approval, this time with a much larger force package based on the time that the enemy had to prepare to find 44 Bravo. Again, this force was protected by A-10 Warthogs using the Sandy call sign. And this force had one single mission: do everything they can to bring an American home. This meant having a plan, being prepared to execute that plan, and more importantly, being prepared for multiple simultaneous contingencies. And because of this force's professionalism, grit, and determination, fight off two enemies at the same time: the enemy searching for 44 Bravo and contingencies, which anyone who has done these types of missions knows we run into every single time. The force fought off both of those enemies incredibly well. During the period of darkness on Saturday, and as the Secretary said, into Easter Sunday and into the daylight, the force fought its way in and rescued Dude 44 Bravo. They were protected overhead by an air armada, including tactical drones, strike aircraft, and others. The force fought through multiple simultaneous contingencies, something no other nation, no other military can do, and safely returned Dude 44 Bravo, the backseater, home, and all other Americans home as well. At midnight 12 local Eastern time, Easter Sunday, more than 50 hours after the start of this operation, the Joint Personnel Recovery Center declared Dude 44 Bravo, both the front and backseater, returned to friendly territory. The courage demonstrated by both the pilot and the weapons system officer while isolated and them invading the enemy cannot be overstated. Their grit and warfighting tenacity is a direct result of the absolute trust they have in our rescue forces, their training, and their will to survive and return. They always knew that we would be ordered to go get them, and they always knew that we would be coming to get them. These two operations reflect our nation's most sacred obligation to our military service members. We leave no one behind, bless you. It also perfectly captures the first truth of our special operations forces, that people are more important than hardware. That is the standard we live by, and the rescue forces that execute these missions operate under a clear motto: these things we do that others may live. Their actions were a direct embodiment of that commitment to others, and I could not be more proud of each and every one of them today. As the Secretary said to our enemies, this operation serves as a clear reminder of the capability and will of America's joint force. The United States of America will recover our warfighters anywhere in the world, under any conditions, when we want to. We will always bring overwhelming skill and firepower. To every member of the Joint Force, our interagency partners, the leadership at CENTCOM, and our leaders at the department and above, thank you. I'm proud of each and every one of you and thankful to our deployed forces and their families. And lastly, and most importantly, to Dude 44, welcome home. Job well done. Thank you.
Pretty amazing, pretty amazing. And these two gentlemen have been, from day one, they've been perfecto. You know, I got to know General Kane in my first term because he was able to take out ISIS in 4 weeks instead of the 4-year projection that was given to me by other much lesser generals. I said, you know, if I ever do this again, that's going to be the head of my Joint Chiefs of Staff. And we worked it that way, didn't we? And it's amazing. He took out ISIS. We defeated ISIS in 4 weeks. I was told it would take 4 years. I flew to Iraq to find out with the greatest equipment in the world, why would it take 4 years? And he told me, sir, it won't. It'll take 4 weeks and you'll have time left over. And that's exactly what happened. So he's great. And Pete, all I can say is that he was treated very unfairly. And now those same people that treated him unfairly, that fought against him, they called me up saying, what a great choice he was. I said, well, what happened during his nomination? What happened to you? I'm telling you, people that were not for him, senators, friends of mine, sir, I don't think you're doing the right thing. Now they're calling me up. What a choice. These two guys are fantastic. And John Ratcliffe was incredible. It was actually their genius that called us from, he was 40 miles away. And he said, you know, we're seeing something moving up in the mountain. This is at night. And they kept the camera on him for 45 minutes. He wasn't moving. And they said, you know, probably wrong, but we're seeing something moving. This is a vast mountain, vast, thick, with bushes, trees. He said, we see something moving 40 miles away. It was the head of a human being. I'm telling you, it's moving. And then all of a sudden, 45 minutes later, he moved a lot. Stood up. And they said, we have him. And that was really the beginning of something incredible. We had an idea where he was, but not specifically. That's a big mountain. So I want to thank the CIA, too. I don't think they get enough credit for the great job they've done. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for this great opportunity. Country, it has super army. You make a difference, Mr. President. Thank you for your greatest leadership.
Thank you.
I have 2 quick questions, Mr. President. What was your reaction when you learned that Kurdistan region had resumed exporting oil to the international market with your support as United States of America?
Well, I expected that. We've gotten along with the Kurds for a long time, so I expected that.
Another question, what would be your reaction if the Iranian people rise up against their regime during a ceasefire, Mr. President?
Well, they should do it. But again, the consequences are great. I mean, they were told if you protest, you will be shot immediately. You saw what happened to the young wrestler. He was a great champion, by the way. He was a great wrestler, one of the top in the world. And he and his 2 friends were hung. And all they did was say a little bit about liberty. They wanted liberty, and they were violently executed. But the number is up to probably 45,000 people were killed. So, you know, when somebody stays in a house, when they know if they walk out of the house to protest, they'll be immediately shot and killed. And they issued that, you know, that was publicly issued. It's not a secret. That's why so many people say, oh, well, why are you doing this way? We can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. You know, we got regime change. We're dealing with a much different regime than before. We're dealing with different people. They're smarter. I think they're sharper and far less radical. We have regime change, but we didn't do this for regime change. We did it for the fact, and my my view was very simple. I saw somebody said, "Oh, he doesn't have a plan. I have the best plan of all, but I'm not going to tell you what my plan is." You know, they want me to say, "Here's my plan. We're going to attack at 9:47 in the morning, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to." And if you don't do that, they say, "I have a plan." These people know what the plan is. Everybody here knows what the plan is, but it's very unfair to say we don't. Because I don't mind being insulted. I've been insulted for many years by the fake news, but you can't. It's so bad for the people that are so pro. You just saw two great and John Ratcliffe, three unbelievable people. They have a plan. Every single thing has been thought out by all of us. But I can't reveal the plan to the media. So, you know, but we're just thrilled by the success of this operation. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You've said Iranians would be mad if you stopped these attacks, but why would they want you to blow up their infrastructure, to cut off their power? Wouldn't that be punishing Iranians for the actions of the regime?
They would be willing to, and it's suffering. They would be willing to suffer that in order to have freedom. The Iranians have, and we've had numerous intercepts. Please keep bombing. Bombs that are dropping near their homes. Please keep bombing. Do it. And these are people that are living where the bombs are exploding. And when we leave and we're not hitting those areas, they're saying, please come back, come back, come back. These are the people. I don't know what they do. All I can tell you is they want freedom. They have lived in a world that you know nothing about. It's a violent, horrible world where if you protest, you are shot. Remember the great woman protests where they had 400,000, 500,000 women, and they were all enthused and they were going to protest, and everybody said, oh, the regime's going to come to an end. And then all of a sudden, boom, boom, 5, 6 different areas. A woman would go down right between the eyes. They had snipers. They had 5 snipers. That's all it took. And those 400,000 or 500,000 women said, oh my God, what's that? Oh, look over there. What's that? A woman shot right between the eyes. And after 5 or 6 of them go down, then you start hearing the purr through the vast number of people. And then they said, oh my God, who would do that? And they're incredible people, but they've lived so horribly. They've lived so horribly. You know, Iran was a great country. If you go back 25 years ago or so, the Persian people, they're incredible, smart, brilliant, actually. And I know so many. I know coming from New York, originally, I know so many people from Iran. They're incredible people, incredible energy, and very, very brilliant people. But when you're standing in a group and protesting, and you have a woman, in the case of the woman, remember the Great Woman March? Everybody was saying, oh, this is the end of the country. And then snipers selectively picked. Every single one was shot right between the eyes from a long distance. They were on top of buildings. Nobody even knew where they were. Where are they coming from? This wasn't like a machine gun, which is also very bad. They've done that too. They did that recently. This was snipers sitting on the top of buildings, aiming and hitting women. And when they see people go down, and all of a sudden there's a riot in the reverse direction, and they never came out again. And a lot of the news doesn't talk about that. They talk about, oh, women's rights. You want to see women's rights? You're not going to see it there. It's amazing when I see some of the stupid people like, you know, AOC +3, all that group. They talk about, oh, freedom for Iran. They don't tell you the real facts. Women, men, gays. How about gays for Iran? They kill the gays. They throw them off buildings. So I wonder what's going on. I can only say this. They want us to keep bombing, even if it jeopardizes, because their life is in much greater danger. They want freedom for Iran, but it's very hard for them to protest. I actually tell them, I said, don't go out. I fully understand. Nobody in this room would go out. I don't think there's any, because frankly, it's not a question of bravery. We're all brave, right? You're brave, I'm brave, we're all brave, but we're also intelligent. If you have people shooting at you, expert shots with the best rifles you can get, and hitting you right between the eyes every single time, and you're looking here and you're seeing and you're looking here, you're out of there. I don't care who it is. Please.
Mark Meredith, Fox News.
I know that.
Oh, thank you.
How would I know that? Go ahead.
America's watching. No,
Good job.
can we go back to the weekend? First off, was everyone on board with the operation, or were there people that were trying to talk you out of going through with the operation this weekend?
Not everybody was on board.
Somebody else within
No,
your-
there was military people, very professional, that preferred not doing it. These two were totally on board, which was very important. If they weren't, I would have had a little difficulty. But no, there were military people that said, you just don't do this. You don't go into the heart of a very powerful military. You know, this is, hey, you have countries and countries. You have some countries where military is not their strong suit. This whole thing is militarized like nobody's ever seen before. Half the people are wearing uniforms. And we had people within the military. Usually it's not done. That's one of the reasons. You know, I was surprised. Somebody said it's the only time it's ever been done. I said, that's not possible. But it is possible because you're going into hundreds of thousands of soldiers along the path. I mean, look at some of the helicopters, how they got hit. So, yeah, there were people within the military that said it's a wise. And don't forget, how many men did you send altogether, approximately, for the operation?
I'd love to keep that a secret.
Okay, well, we are. But I will tell you the number. I'll keep it a secret, but it was hundreds and hundreds of these people. That's pretty good. Is he central casting? But hundreds of people went into this journey. Hundreds of people could have been killed. Forget about the equipment. A lot of equipment. Nobody cares. Hundreds of people could have been killed. So we had people that were within the military that said this is not a wise, and I understood that, but I decided to do it.
Was there a point that they were going to, that you were thinking there's too much on the line, and somebody was saying maybe we abort this now and wait? I mean, given the resource, like the general said, it seemed like there was so much on the line here. You must have been thinking, well, this could have completely changed.
So the first one, which was in many ways as dangerous as the second, I guess it gets, because we're flying over daylight. You know, we're the best at the world at night. We have goggles that nobody, we have goggles. I've tried them. They're unbelievable. I see better with the goggles at night than I see without them during daylight. I mean, daylight today, we have a beautiful day. You see just as well with goggles. In many ways, it's enhanced. So we have the best in the world. So it's much safer for us to do it at night, whereas other people, no other country has that capability. They don't have that particular piece of equipment like we do. But when I was told flying and in daylight, I think we flew 7 hours over Iran, and that's a long time, over unbelievably hostile territory, where they have nothing but weapons. We took out their anti-aircraft, which is great. We took out their radar, which is great. We took out a lot, but they still have, you know, what hit this one was a handheld shoulder missile, heat-seeking missile. So it's not like, you know, they're totally whatever. And they had probably a little luck, because you got to get lucky. But they shot it, and it got sucked in right by the engine. But these guys were out of there. They were great. Their timing was great. But no, I was told that this is a very dangerous mission. I understand. They didn't say it's a foolish mission. They said, you know, we're going to be sacrificing hundreds of people do this. This is, I mean, you have tankers that are flying over this area so that because the flight was so long, they had to refuel. It's a very dangerous mission. I just felt it was worth it. If you would have told me that we would have been successful, gotten both, and nobody was even essentially injured, I would have said that would be impossible. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Given that you are now dealing, you say, with a more reasonable, less extreme leadership in Iran, what does that mean for the protesters, for the human rights movement in that country after this conflict?
Well,
What's your
positive.
expectation?
Yeah, if they assume control, if we do something and they assume control, I think it's very positive, a big step. I don't think you'd see the radicalization that you have seen in the last. Look what happened. I mean, women are being executed because they're not properly clothed, they say. They're not properly clothed, and they execute the women. They shoot them right on the street. No, you have a much different group of people. Now, I'm not saying we are dealing with them. Essentially, they have till 8 o'clock tomorrow night, Eastern time. But we are dealing with them. I think it's going well. Mr. Witkoff is here, and JD's involved in the dealing. Mr. Witkoff is sitting right here, and I think it's going fine, but we'll have to see. You have to understand, we've been dealing with these people for 47 years. I'm standing here with a much more powerful Iran as of a month ago, not anymore. Right now, they are decapitated. But I'm standing here a month ago with a much more powerful Iran than it was at any point during 47 years. This should have been handled by 7 presidents, a lot of presidents. And those presidents are saying now, every one of them to their friends, we should have done this a long time ago. So it's not something I like doing. It's very dangerous. And we're getting them at the height of their strength. If I didn't terminate the Barack Hussein Obama Iran nuclear deal, they would have had don't forget, that was a path to a nuclear weapon. Remember this. He chose Iran over Israel, pure and simple. How Israel can vote for a Democrat is if you're Jewish in New York City or any place else in this country, and how you can vote for a Democrat is unbelievable, because he chose Iran, a very hostile Iran. Remember when he filled up a 757 with cash, billions of dollars of cash, and he sent it over to them. Then they gave them tens of billions of dollars. He chose Iran over Israel and really the Arab world, if you look, because, you know, the other, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE. I mean, you take a look. I mean, I can add Kuwait and I can add Bahrain, and you can add others. He chose such an unlikely candidate. Nobody could believe it. Frankly, if you're going to choose between Iraq and Iran, he should have befriended Iraq. He went in the exact opposite direction of all thinking, and he made a terrible mistake. But that was a road to a nuclear weapon. And when I terminated that, everyone said, oh, he terminated it. It was one of the best things we ever did because he had a road to a nuclear weapon. And it was a very short-term deal. You know, countries don't do 10-year deals.
Yeah, this is live, folks. This is live.
You don't do a 10-year deal. For a country, this isn't, you're a landlord and you're renting a store on a certain street and you give somebody a 5-year or a 10-year lease. This is a country. It was a short-term deal. It was ready to expire. I terminated it before it expired. Took a lot of heat, and it was one of the best things I ever did because he would have had a nuclear weapon. Then he would have had another nuclear weapon, had those beautiful B-2 bombers not gone in 8 months ago and obliterated that site. And by the way, the word is obliteration. CNN said, well, maybe it wasn't complete. It was so complete that they still haven't been able to get it. It was obliteration. But if we didn't hit them, that was a courageous decision, too, because we had all those planes flying in at night with very little cover, unbelievable stealth planes, and they were able to do their job. If we didn't do that, Iran would have had a nuclear weapon at a high level, either one of those two instances. And if they did, in my opinion, I told this to Bibi Netanyahu yesterday, Israel would have been extinguished. Large portions of the Middle East would have been extinguished, whether it's Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, or others. And you saw that with thousands of missiles raining down upon them. They didn't think they were going to be hit. They thought they'd be watching us fight. And all of a sudden, UAE got hit by 1,500 missiles. He would have taken them out also. And they were powerful. If I didn't come along and terminate the Obama deal, which was terrible, the Iran nuclear deal was a road to a nuclear weapon, a big one, unlimited, legally. I terminated it without even much thought. It was so easy. I terminated that. And then the B-2 bombers. And I did one other thing. I had killed Qasem Soleimani, who was an evil genius. And the reason I did it, I heard he was going to knock out 5 of our military bases. And had he lived, I believe we would be fighting perhaps a different Iran right now, because he's never been replaced, you know. And I did one other, but this one was not picked up. Osama bin Laden. If you read my book, I said you got to take him out 1 year before the World Trade Center came down. So I wish you'd read the book. But you, as a president, to be a good president, I believe you have to have good instincts. And a lot of this is instinct. Yeah, please.
Thank you so much for taking my question, Mr. President. Mr.
Yeah, go ahead,
President,
please.
last week you suggested that Europe should take the lead on reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Has circumstances changed now that you're issuing a direct 48-hour ultimatum? And secondly, would a new ceasefire include Israel, or would it just be between Iran
I can't
and
talk
US?
about ceasefire, but I can tell you that we have a active, willing participant on the other side. They would like to be able to make a deal. I can't say any more than that. But they'd like to do it.
Mr. President, thank you so much. You've listed the goals. Excuse me.
Please go ahead.
You've listed
Thank
the
you, Mr.
goals.
President.
Who you with? Who you with?
My name is Dia Kurd. I'm with the largest Kurdish media outlet, Ruda Media Network. It's based in Iran.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, you said before that you don't want the Kurdish forces to enter Iran and disarm it. Do you still want them to stay away? Or what role do you expect them to play now?
I'd rather have them stay away.
And then,
I'd rather have them stay away because I think they bring with them some problems and some difficulties. And I don't think they bring death. I mean, to themselves. But I'd rather have them stay away. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the question. Deliberate attacks on civilian infrastructure violate the Geneva Conventions and international
with?
law.
Who you with?
I'm with the New York Times. Zolan from the New York Times. Are you
The failing.
Are you
see
concerned?
circulation way down at the New York Times?
Are
What's
you
going on?
concerned that your threat to bomb power plants and bridges amount to
No,
war
not at
crimes?
all. No, I'm not. I hope I don't have to do it. But again, I just said 47 years they've been negotiating with these people. They're great negotiators.
Why would that
And
act not
because
violate
they're not going to
international
have a nuclear weapon. And if somebody that takes my place someday is weak and ineffective, which possibly that will happen because we had numerous presidents that were weak, ineffective, and afraid of Iran, we're never going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And if you think it's okay for people that are sick of mind, that are tough, smart, and sick, really sick, from a policy standpoint, from a any which way you want to say, mentally, these are disturbed people. If you think I'm going to allow them, and powerful and rich, to have a nuclear weapon, you can tell your friends at the New York Times, not going to happen.
It means violating international law.
Quiet. You no longer have credibility at the New York Times. Because the New York Times said, oh, Trump won't win the election, and I won in a landslide. I won every swing state. New York Times said, oh, Trump won't win the election. New York Times has no credibility. The credibility they have is it used to be all the news that's fit to print. The old gray lady, it was great, but they're running on past fumes, and you can't keep doing that. You have to be able to give the correct news. And people like you, who I know, are fake. You're fake. Go ahead, please.
Your messaging on the war has moved from the war is coming to an end to war going to be bombing Iran to the Stone Ages.
Right.
And we've heard a range of those
Sure.
kind of messages. So which is it? Are you winding this
Can't
down
tell
or
you.
are you escalating
I can't tell
it?
you. I don't know. I can't tell. Depends what they do. This is a critical period. They have a period of, till tomorrow at 8 o'clock. I gave them an extension. They asked for an extension of 7 days, right? I said, Steve, give them 10 days. 10 days is up actually today. So I gave them 11, I guess, indirectly. I thought it was inappropriate the day after Easter. I want to be a nice person. They have till tomorrow. Now we'll see what happens. I can tell you they're negotiating, we think, in good faith. We're going to find out. We're getting the help of some incredible countries that want this to be ended because it affects them also. A lot of people are affected by this, but we're giving them till tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern time. And after that, they're going to have no bridges. They're going to have no power plants. Stone Ages, yeah. Stone Ages. CNN fake news.
Are you willing to make a deal that does not include reopening the Strait of Hormuz, or is that now a top priority?
I would say it's a very big priority because, see, that's one thing that's a little different than other things. We can bomb the hell out of them. We can knock them out for a loop. But to close the strait, all you need is one terrorist that somehow has a truck loaded with, because you can carry them in trucks, large trucks, a water mine, drop them in the water. And now you tell people that own ships that cost $1 billion to don't worry about the mine. You can do that even just by saying we put mines in the water. So it's not like the rest. We can knock out their military. We already have. We've knocked out their Navy. We've knocked out their Air Force completely. We've knocked out 158 ships in 3 days. We've knocked out even their mine droppers. They don't have any mine droppers anymore, but they put them on other boats and they could drop them. I'm not even sure they have any mines there, by the way. I'm not sure. I'm personally, they say there might be 8. I don't know. I think there might be none because they're very good bullshit artists. That's why for 47 years they've been bullshitting other presidents and they haven't done the job. And people are living in hell. You live in that country, they're living in hell. No, I think that 47 years of this stuff is long enough. They're at the weakest point they've ever been. They have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft weaponry, they have no radar, they have no communication. In fact, the biggest problem we have in our negotiation is that they can't communicate. I said to Steve, what are they saying? Sir, they can't communicate. They have no method of communication. So we're communicating like they used to communicate 2,000 years ago with children, bringing a note back and forth. They have no communication. But all I want to see is I want to have a safe world. And you're not going to have a safe world. Israel will be gone. The Middle East will be gone. And then they're coming for Europe. And I have to tell you, I'm very disappointed in NATO. Very. I think that NATO, I think it's a mark on NATO that will never disappear in my mind. You know, they're coming to see me on Wednesday. They're going to say, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. Now they all of a sudden want to send things, you know. But they said it loud and clear at the beginning. When I spoke to UK of all, I would have said they would have been the first because they're the oldest. And I say, yeah, I'd love to have a little help. He said, no, sir, we'd rather wait till you win. I said, I don't need help after we win. They have 2 old broken aircraft carriers, barely work. I said, I guess we can use them. Who the hell knows? I called the general. He didn't even want them. He said, we don't really need them. We got the SS Abraham Lincoln, sir. We don't need them. You know, we have, in terms of technology, we had one day 101 missiles going at 2,700 miles an hour aimed at the Abraham Lincoln. 101 missiles. Out of 101 missiles, 101 missiles were shot down. Unbelievable technology. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know if that would have been possible. But 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been possible. 101 missiles heading to a ship that's not that far off the coast. And out of the 101 missiles, we shot down all 101. We have weaponry. The Patriots are unbelievable. We have weaponry that's unbelievable. Yeah. Go ahead, please. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said earlier today during the egg roll that you would like to take Iran's oil, but Americans want U.S. forces home.
Correct.
What's that trade-off?
If I had my choice, yeah, because I'm a businessman first. With Venezuela, as you know, the war was over in about 45 minutes. And we have great people running Venezuela, very good people. I mean, the relationship is good. And we are a partner with Venezuela. And we've taken hundreds of millions of barrels, hundreds of millions. Over 100 million barrels already is in Houston, refined and out. And paid for that war many, many times over, many times. You know, the old days, to the victim. Okay, you know that. To the winner belong the spoils, go the spoils. And I've said, why don't we use it? To the victor, go the spoils. And we don't have that. We haven't had that in this country probably in 100 years, because even the Second World War, you look at the Second World War, we didn't have it with the Second World. We helped rebuild all those countries. We rebuilt Germany. How about Germany telling us that, well, it's not their war. We had nothing to do with it. They wanted me to go and tell them everything I was doing. We didn't know anything about it. Well, if I would have told them, they would have leaked it, and we wouldn't have been nearly as successful, possibly, right? But to the victor belong the spoils. So We haven't heard that in, I think, maybe hundreds of years. Now with Venezuela, and we, just so you understand, the people of Venezuela, they say if I ran for president of Venezuela, I'm polling higher than anybody has ever polled in Venezuela. So after I'm finished with this, I can go to Venezuela. I will quickly learn Spanish. It won't take too long. I'm good at language. And I will go to Venezuela. I'm going to run for president. But we're very happy with the president-elect that we have right now, the people that are running it. If you remember Bush with Iraq, they fired the generals, they fired the police, they fired the people that worked in their equivalent of the White House. They fired everybody. And you know what they had? They had a mess. And you know what happened? ISIS formed. Those generals and those soldiers got together. The police got together. They all got together. They formed ISIS. Not going to happen with us. So Venezuela has been an incredible situation. We went in. We were very successful. Military power like nobody's ever seen. The general, Venezuelan general, said, I was on that site. I said, I've never seen ferocity like that. I've been doing this for 40 years. He said, I've never seen it. They hit us from 17 different, they were all set. They saw that big, beautiful aircraft carrier, the Ford in that case, and planes were pouring off it at 1 o'clock in the morning. So typically when you see that late at night, you know, you could be in trouble, right? And we were all ready. They had their equipment. It was Russian. And they had Chinese equipment. It was all set. They were going to give us a fight. He said, and then they came, and they came at speeds like we've never seen. And they came at 17 different angles. The general and his people, that was a lot of angles. They hit him from every angle. He said, we knew it was over in 3 minutes. We were waiting for them. Their equipment didn't work. And there's a reason it didn't work. Someday we'll explain that to people. They pressed the button, nothing happened. They pressed it again and again, nothing happened. And he said, we knew this whole thing was over in 3 minutes. We've never seen any, he used the word ferocity. The ferocity of these planes from 17 different angles, and it was over. They went inside. And remember, that was on a military base with thousands of soldiers. And those soldiers looked and they said, get the hell out of here. Thousands. We didn't have thousands. We had like 200 people. So we have a great military. And I'll tell you what, somehow this rescue captured the world's attention, more so than normally. You're talking about 2 people. But this rescue captured the world's attention. But we did it in Venezuela. That was amazing. And now we have a very bad man in prison and going to trial. I mean, he released, aside from the drugs, which he was terrible, Maduro released hundreds of thousands of people from jails into our country. Drug dealers, murderers, the worst people in the world were released into our country because we had a stupid president who probably didn't know. And we had a border czar who never went to the border and never once called our great border patrol agents, right? Not once, Kamala. She never called the border patrol. She never said, how are we doing? I used to call the border patrol guys every day. You can ask them, Paul, ask any one of them. Brandon, ask them all the time. How are we doing? How are we doing? And we now, I'm proud to say, have a totally sealed border. 9 months, nobody is coming through our border. And nobody even tries because they know they're not going to get through. So we don't have caravans anymore. So maybe 1 or 2 more and we'll be done.
Mr. President, are you allowed to, or are you willing to end this conflict with Iran charging tolls for passage through the strait?
Us charging tolls?
Iran.
What about us charging tolls?
Is that something you're considering?
I'd rather do that than let them have them, right? Why shouldn't we? We're the winner. We won, okay? They are militarily defeated. The only thing they have is the psychology of, oh, we're going to drop a couple of mines in the water, all right? No, we have a concept where we'll charge tolls, okay? I thought you meant us. Your question would have been more accurate if you said us. Go ahead.
So just to clarify, in order for Iran to successfully meet your deadline tomorrow, do they have to make a deal, open the strait, or both?
We have to have a deal that's acceptable to me. And part of that deal is going to be, we want free traffic of oil and everything else.
Thank you very much.
You've said glory be to God in this conflict. Do you believe that God supports the United States' actions in this
I do,
war?
because
And have you
God
sought
is
his direction?
good, because God is good, and God wants to see people taken care of. God doesn't like what's happening. I don't like what's happening. Everyone says, I don't enjoy this. I don't enjoy it. These two guys don't enjoy it. You know, people say, oh boy, they're so tough. I don't like seeing people killed. I've ended 8 wars. Nobody's ever done it. The person who won the Nobel Prize came to me and said, you deserve the Nobel Prize. She announced that. When they announced, they said, goes to Maria. She's a great person, really a good person. She said, no. This is ridiculous. They gave me the Nobel Prize. President Trump ended 8 wars. I could go over every one of them, including India and Pakistan, where the Prime Minister of Pakistan said, President Trump saved from 30 to 50 million lives. That makes me much happier than what we're doing right now. That makes me much happier. We have one more to end, by the way. Okay.
President, you called yesterday in your Truth Social, you called the Iranians crazy bastards.
True.
What is your response to critics who say that
I don't care about critics.
What is your response to critics who say that it is your mental health that should perhaps be examined as this war continues?
I haven't heard that. But if that's the case, you're going to have more people like me, because our country was being ripped off on trade, on everything for many years until I came along. So if that's the case, you're going to have more people. Dasha, go ahead. Dasha, go.
You said that very little is off limits in Iran as far as targeting,
Yeah.
including power plants, bridges, you've mentioned those.
Very little is off limits.
Are there certain kinds of civilian targets, though? I'm thinking
I don't want to tell you that. I don't want to tell you that. We have a plan, because of the power of our military, where every bridge in Iran will be decimated by 12 o'clock tomorrow night, where every power plant in Iran will be out of business, burning, exploding, and never to be used again. I mean, complete demolition by 12 o'clock. And it'll happen over a period of 4 hours if we wanted to. We don't want that to happen. We may even get involved with helping them rebuild their nation. And you know what? If that's the case, the last thing we want to do is start with power plants, which are among the most expensive thing, and bridges. You saw the bridge went. We were very close to a deal. And then I got a call from Mr. Witkoff, Mr. Kushner, and JD saying, I think they're breaking the deal. I said, tell them that's okay. Don't worry about it. But tell them to look out their window and watch. And within 45 minutes, I gave the order to knock out the biggest bridge. I gave the order, knock out the biggest bridge in, I believe, the Middle East, but the biggest bridge in Iran. And within 10 minutes after I gave that order, that bridge was over. So do I want to do that? No. Do I want to destroy their infrastructure? No. It will take them 100 years to rebuild. Right now, if we left today, it would take them 20 years to rebuild their country, and it would never be as good as it was. And the only way they're going to be able to rebuild their country is to utilize the genius of the United States of America.
Mr. President, on NATO, you voiced your displeasure with NATO in the past. Is there a danger to the U.S. not being the de facto of the leader of the alliance, and then other powers within the alliance then getting the decision making when it comes to wars and nuclear weapons?
No, it's not a danger. Look, we went to NATO. I didn't ask very strongly. I just said, hey, if you want to help, great. No, we will not help. I said, that's all right. You don't want to help? Because I've always said NATO's a paper tiger. See, NATO's a paper tiger. Putin's not afraid of NATO. Putin's afraid of us, very afraid of us. And he's explained it to me a lot of times. I got to know him very well. I know him very well. NATO's a paper tiger. NATO is us. And when we needed them, we didn't need them, by the way. We didn't need them, obviously, because they haven't helped at all. Just the opposite. They've actually gone out of their way not to help. They didn't even want to give us landing strips. Think of it. And it's not just NATO. You know who else didn't help us? South Korea didn't help us. You know who else didn't help us? Australia didn't help us. You know who else didn't help us? Japan. We've got 50,000 soldiers in Japan to protect them from North Korea. We have 45,000 soldiers in South Korea to protect us from Kim Jong-un, who I get along with very well, as you know. Do you notice he said very nice things about me? He used to call Joe Biden a mentally retarded person, okay? So don't tell me about your stuff. Joe Biden, he said he's a mentally retarded person. He was so nasty to Joe Biden. It was terrible. But to me, he likes Trump. And you notice how nice things are with North Korea? It's very nice. But we have 45,000 people, soldiers, in harm's way, and right next to Kim Jong-un with a lot of nuclear weapons. 45, which should have never happened if a certain president, I'm not going to mention this president because I happen to like him, believe it or not, but if a certain president did his job, Kim Jong-un would not have nuclear weapons right now. But they're all afraid to do their job properly. But just to conclude and just to finish, Japan didn't help us, Australia didn't help us, South Korea didn't help us, and then you get to NATO. NATO didn't help us. There were some countries that did. Now, countries that have been good, now you could also say they're got to be a little bit more involved because they're in the territory, but Saudi Arabia has been excellent. Qatar has been excellent. UAE has been excellent. Bahrain, Kuwait. I mean, Kuwait did shoot down 3 of our planes. The only planes really that we lost with friendly fire, they call it. I call it unfriendly fire. They unfortunately didn't know how to use our great Patriots. The pilot said, what kind of a missile's coming at us? Patriot. Boom, they got out because they know a Patriot never misses. So they had beautiful Patriots. There were planes heading in their direction. Unfortunately, they decided to shoot those planes. They were our planes. So, NATO is a paper tiger. Now, he's coming to see me on Wednesday, as you know. He's a wonderful guy. Secretary General is great. And Mark Rutte, he's a great person, but he's got, and it all began with, if you want to know the truth, Greenland. We want Greenland. They don't want to give it to us. And I said, bye-bye. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
What about rising gas prices for Americans who are concerned?
Well, she'll probably be getting banned from the White House after asking the question about gas. So what do you guys think in regards to the lecture from the president today, folks? Do you feel like you know more than you knew this morning? Was this a real update in regards to Iran? Put a 1 in the chat if you feel like the president helped you learn something about the future. Put a 2 if you did not learn a cotton-picking thing. Let's see what you guys have to say about this. Let's see what you think. Did you learn anything? Put a 1 in the chat. If you didn't, put a 2. All right. Let's see what the pulse is in the chat. Okay. Most people are saying they didn't learn anything. Okay. Wow. Okay. More 2s than we have 1s. There was a good point made. I forget the name. Let's see if I can find who made this point. And by the way, thank you guys for the super chats and supporting the channel. But let's see if I could find it here. Mr. Wallen says, meeting designed to get more money for the war. Do you guys agree with that? You think that this was all about the war? That's the reason why they had this meeting today? Oh, Lisa says no comment. Okay. Pretty Ting says, what did he teach? What did he teach? Joe Mann says the alarming number of Ronald Wilson Reagan's name. Okay. Aryan says, worst president ever. When he opens his mouth, he either lies or reveals secrets that he shouldn't. Thank you for your comment. Okay. Terry says, I'm for Trump. Thank you, Terry, for supporting your president here. Okay, Purple Groovy says, this situation may break your heart, but it will fix your vision. I won't need glasses after this is over. This is beautiful. Thank you, Purple Groovy. Caprello, day in, day out. religiously, says that Trump is incredible, that he's the greatest ever. Thank you for your participation, Capello. All right. M. Wallen says, if I believe he likes Obama, I would have put a 1. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys for all the comments. Devin says, what an embarrassment of an administration. What makes it embarrassing? Tell us in the chat what makes it so embarrassing. Do you think the president is showing strength by taking on Iran when all the other presidents said that they did not want to have any parts to do with Iran? Does that show that this president has the heart of steel to go in and take on Iran? Or do you guys think that it means something different? All right. Thank you, Bella B. Thanks for popping in to give me a like. That warms my heart to see that I have people such as yourself that wants to see watching the world win. That sounds good. Watching the world win. Thank you, Bella B. Thank you so much. Thank you, Terry, for the super chat. Where are you tuning in from, Terry? Terry Hayes. Are you out of the country, it appears? I think so. Aryan says Trump is embarrassing because of the stupidity is so obvious. Okay. Devin says it's embarrassing because this whole war. Oops, the chat is going so fast. I lost you there for a second. Devin says, okay, here we go. It's embarrassing because the whole war is to distract from the Epstein files, which he is in thousands of times. Do you guys believe that? Let's test that theory in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you think that this war is to distract from the Epstein files. Put a 2 if you think that that's bogus. Let's see what you guys have to think. A lot of people are saying it's because of a distraction with the Epstein files. Thank you, Anderson. Love right back at you. Big time. Big time. Really? Okay, let's see. Okay. So far, Stanley's in the building. Shout out to you, Stanley. Okay, we're saying most people are saying that that's bogus in regards to the Epstein files. Okay, and we get a couple 3s. Okay, Jeff says he wants to own as many countries as possible. All right, you think that this is a resource grab? Do you guys think that this is a resource grab? Now, guys, I've been in court twice with Nicolas Maduro. He actually walked into the courtroom. I think I was sitting about 4 rows behind Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, okay? And the man himself came into the courtroom and he talked about how the United States, our government, our military, basically came into his home on a Saturday night. He was in his living room. And in his house, there's this wall that once this door closes, it's nearly impossible to retrieve him and his wife out. In fact, you would have to use explosives to retrieve him, right? The military came in so fast that he did not have time with him and his wife to get behind this wall. They took out 32 men, and from the descriptions of some of those that were there, boots on the ground, keep in mind they had Russia, they also had China. The United States used some sort of technology that froze these people in time. The heat was so high and it was breathtaking. And as they stood still, the military knocked them right out of their boots, one by one. 32 men. Now, Nicolas Maduro, he had the Cubans protecting him because he did not trust his own men there in Venezuela. Okay? But whatever technology the United States used, it really had a one-up on Russia and China. Now, keep in mind, they had all of the assets and reasons to really want to protect Venezuela and also Nicolas Maduro. But lo and behold, they could not stop the United States military. So it goes to show that when it comes to war, it seems that the United States is really advanced. But we have to wonder, why are we going into so many different countries all at the same time, right? Not only that, we're knocking on NATO's door when it comes to Greenland. Remember, we covered it extensively on Watching the World, right? They're pushing on NATO. Anywhere that there's resources, the United States wants to go in and take over. And it's not just a matter of one, they do two, three at a time, okay? So there's a lot of different moving parts. In fact, here in the United States, the main reason, one of the key reasons why Pam Bondi got the boot is because she wasn't doing within the country, going after the president's enemies, just as we're doing it outside the country, right? She didn't take out Comey, Letitia James, who I was with a week ago at the parade. Okay, the list goes on and on. You had Don Lemon, he's taking on the heat. All of these individuals, and if you check out Alex Jones, in fact, tonight when I cover Nancy Guthrie, even Alex Jones is coming out saying that Donald Trump is on a decline. You need to get him out of here. We're starting to see some things that I never thought I would actually see in this life based on what the past had shown, especially when you couldn't have found a better supporter of Donald Trump than Alex Jones. He would go out and yell from the mountaintop in his raspy voice, Donald Trump is the man. All hail Donald Trump, right? Now you have these guys turning their back. They did a 180 when it comes to the president of the United States. How could this be? And again, I started off talking about Tucker Carlson. So here's the key. We are solving problems according to MAGA Republicans, perhaps, although some have changed their position on the world scene. And even in the United States, they're making so many fast advancements and all this technology, and we still can't find what happened to Nancy Guthrie. What's going on, folks? All of this, and we can't even tell you what happened to a lady when she was taken out of the comfort of her own bed. Very confusing when we try to understand life and all of the particular parts, but we're going to get into that tonight as far as Nancy Guthrie. Now, I want to give you guys a little homework to do before we get into Nancy Guthrie. Just for those of you who are interested in still following her case, right? A lot of people said they've had enough of it, and I totally respect that, right? So we're not pushing that on anyone. But as you guys know, I went out to Tucson, Arizona, and I actually covered Nancy Guthrie's case right from her front stoop right there, right? By the road, let's say. And what I want you guys to do, if you have some spare time, I want you to look up this case with, there's two teenagers, okay? We're going to get into it at a high level, but there's two teenagers for Nancy Guthrie's case. Well, not Nancy Guthrie. I'm going to tie it in. There's two teenagers from Arizona that went in about 2 weeks ago and they tried to steal $66 million from a very rich family. Okay? They tried to steal $66 million and they went in. The elderly couple, they were beating them. Just so happened their son was in a different room and they didn't know. They called the police. The police came. These two teenagers, I think 16, 17, they ran out the back door. They got into their vehicle and they took off, right? Well, the police stopped them and arrested them. When they arrested these two teenagers, right, in Arizona, the teenagers said that each of them were hired separately by an individual and they were given seed money. They were given $1,000 deposit each. They said that I believe the person that had contracted them only spoke with them through an app called Signal where there is no tracing. Okay? So stick with me here. I'm going to break it down when I do the show. So I think in the case of Nancy Guthrie, it's quite possible that the same thing happened. In fact, this all happened within 2 days of each other. So you think about it, someone is hiring individuals. You had two teens fall for this. They both were arrested. One of them is out on bail. Okay. So imagine in Nancy Guthrie's case, if we go back and take away all of your facts that you know about her case, remember how we keep saying the guy at the front door doesn't seem like he's capable of putting together these high level letters, even though he could have used Chat GPT or whatever. But there was always this ring that whoever is sending, that's why we didn't believe, right? Before I went to Tucson, Arizona, I did not believe that those two original letters were real or came from the same person involved with taking her. But then remember when I was out there in front of her home, the first thing I said to you guys is now I believe that whoever took Nancy Guthrie is also a part of those letters, especially the first two. Some people say, oh, yeah, we believe. Okay. But guess what? Savannah came out just about 2 weeks ago and she backed up what I said. Remember, I also told you guys when I was there that I heard that there was blood inside the door. That just came out about a week ago. So now a lot of the things that I was saying, boots on the ground, we're starting to see them develop, okay? But anyway, think about it this way. The fact that when it comes to her particular case, that the letters does not seem like what you see with the guy. Now, we don't know. But imagine if the same type of setup where the person is hired, and keep in mind, these two teens responded to ads that they saw from the dark web. So let's say this guy, now it's going to make sense to you. This particular guy that took Nancy Guthrie, let's say, for instance, they responded to an ad that they saw online and someone else is manipulating. In both cases, they want Bitcoin. And the fact that they want Bitcoin, maybe the person is not even in the United States. I'm talking about the mastermind. Okay. These teens said they don't have a clue. All they did was speak with someone through this app called Signal. And they went and they beat these people. They broke into their home. They pretended to be UPS or what have you. Okay. So imagine if this happened with Nancy Guthrie, then that would explain why it seemed that the letters are coming from the mastermind and the guy that shows up is just the muscle, and the person is given explicit details, just go in the house, get her. It would explain why this person, remember, when I was there, boots on the ground, they said that someone, now this was the understanding while I was there, that someone in the Tucson area had basically Googled Nancy Guthrie's name and her address, and they also had Googled Savannah Guthrie's salary or how much money she's worth. Okay, so it almost seems that if you start thinking about it, perhaps, now we don't know, but it would make sense. This person is contacted and they're given this mission. And so then they research, okay, they start trying to understand who they're going to be involved in taking. And then they go through with the whole process. And then you have this other person that's the mastermind that's actually sending the letters and trying to get the Bitcoin. And maybe the person that showed up at the door, just like these two teens that I want you guys to go research, maybe this guy had received a deposit. So that kind of ties you into now you have to go through with the deed. So it might be possible because these cases are happening almost simultaneously. 2 days before the teens go into this rich family's home, they don't even know who hired them, but they took the money. All of these things are happening. So anyway, we're going to look at it. But when you actually look at the case, I would just say initially my thoughts was it had to be someone perhaps even close to her family-wise. But that has been ruled out by the police. So we don't know if that has some type of weight. I know now a lot of people are pointing to the fact and they're saying things about family members being experts in teaching about crime scenes. We hear all of these gossips, all of these rumor mills, but we don't know exactly what the deal is. It's all private speculation. And the reason why we're getting all of this private speculation is because the officers or the sheriff is not filling in the gaps and giving enough information so that people can come to a reasonable conclusion as to what happened to Nancy Guthrie. And it's quite possible, too, that a lot of people nowadays want to be the first one to crack a case. They want to be the one to say, hey, I'm a net detective. I get that. That's all fair. We live in a world where a lot of people like to watch the first 48. I grew up watching Unsolved Mysteries, right? Man, the guy's voice would, as a kid, would give me the chills, right? But anyway, it's just what it is, folks. And for those that are pushing back because someone else wants to be the person sitting on the mountain saying, oh, who ate the cabbage? Oh, it was Charlotte's Web. It is what it is. So thank you guys for tuning in today. I just wanted to let you guys know I really appreciate the support for the channel here at Watching the World. We, as a part of Watching the World, we watch whatever the president does. Okay? Very important. A lot of people despise hearing his voice, or they say, well, he basically says the same thing every time. These are some of the chatters that I see sitting in my seat, right? Oh, he's just going to war. The man doesn't know what he's doing. He's off his rocker. But we're living in a world where life is very important because that's prime. That's what we have, right? Everything is centered around life. When we transition out of here, your car, your money, all of your material things, what profit could it be to you if you don't have life? So, in trying to navigate life, we look at to the president to try to understand, where this country, in essence, is like a ship, right? The country, we're on it. We need to know how things are developing. If you see the iceberg, is this guy smart enough to maneuver around it? Because if he doesn't, then we're all doomed. Now, throughout this process, I continue to tell you, it's all one bird, okay? One bird. On the right wing, right, you have the Republicans. On the left wing, you have the Democrats, all on the same bird, but just fighting back and forth, you know, just like fleas. Everybody's fighting. Meanwhile, the bird has its own agenda, right? Probably a part of it. When I went to Rome recently, one of the things that I learned while I was standing right there looking at the Colosseum. Now, I grew up with a religious background, so I knew a lot about the Colosseum and the Apostle Paul. So I have this whole thing about Rome I like, right? So while I was there, one of the things that the tour guide said that in Rome, whenever the economy sucked, people could barely eat, right? Prices were out of control. One of the things that would happen is that the emperor would put on a big show and have the lions go in there and shred a man to pieces. And everybody would be out there, more blood, just to get their minds off of the politics, right? So it's no different today. All of these distractions we see, but it's very important to realize as much as you want to be red, as much as you want to be blue, it's all the same game. And you can't get around it. And the more you fight, the worse off the picture gets for the bird. So as we're on the bird, I wish everybody a good flight, and I hope that while we're taking this flight, you can come to your own conclusion with critical thinking and realize, listen, this is all vanity. It's just striving after the wind. And ultimately, I need to really figure out what's true and what's fake and try to pave a way within my existence for myself and my family. And if I'm strong enough and smart enough, I might even try to look out for my neighbor, right? That's the presiding way. And with all of that, I say enjoy the rest of your day. We'll be back at Watching the World tonight to talk about Nancy Guthrie and some other key factors. But until then, be well and try to figure out how to look at things more critical and stop just buying anything that somebody sell you. Because if you come to New York and you walk down the street 2 blocks, I guarantee you'll meet 3 guys and they'll all try to sell you something that's not even true. And if you're just not wise enough to ask those right questions, you might do like I did when I first came to New York. A guy sold me a Rolex watch for $20. And by the time I got back home, it was turning colors. Have a good day. We'll see you soon at Watching the World. Thank you.
Different voices, but the same song. Living a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.